Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day.
Hey, what's up with that fake voice?
I don't know.
It's supposed to be, this is the Apostate Prophet.
No, I'm trying to be a tough man now because it's like the new thing right now. You know, everybody respects you when you talk like this with a fake voice. And
Hey.
you also have a bunch of women that you have as girlfriends at home and who do online pornography for you, and then you convert to Islam and everybody loves you for it. Yeah.
Hey, I was making fun of, I was hanging out with IP here down in Texas, and I was making fun of him for his voice always sounding like he's going through puberty, but then he started doing a deep voice. But I was like, that, show him your deep voice, IP.
My deep voice? You mean this? The one that's hard. I have to strain my voice on. Doesn't best I can do. Makes my voice crack even more, actually, if I do that. Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting more manly just hanging out with these awesome studs and their deep voices.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, you have a condition, right, that makes your voice crack?
Yeah, I've got my voice evaluated, and they put like one of those cameras like down your nose and look at it, and she's like, no, everything's fine, you just suck. It's like your voice is just gonna crack for the rest of your life. It's nothing you can do about it. So
and that's like what you and Daniel were talking about precocious puberty in your debate. They have yours is like never-ending puberty.
Yeah. No, I was trying to
your voice cracked right when you were talking about
permanent puberty.
Yeah. It happens all the time. Nothing I can do about it. I just own it. That's all.
So I'm late. Normally I'm always late for no reason, but this time I have a justification, a good reason to be late. That's why I'm later than usual. So my little 2-year-old kid has been sick the whole day. He's been vomiting and trying to go to the bathroom and has had trouble. We tried everything, and in the end he finally did it. And then he felt like very sleepy and drowsy and needy and all that. So I had to take care of him and then come here. Despite being 2 years old, he is still a child and not an adult, although, as we have recently learned in the debate between inspiring philosophy and Daniel Haqiqatjou, a child can be an adult and can be ready for sex as early as 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, and maybe even 11 months. So
yeah, IP and AP, we all got to marry our kids off on the super young, or they might go they might run to the closet and masturbate if we're not careful. So it's better to marry them off while they're young.
Oh boy, that's just incredible.
Yeah, that's it. Masturbation is so much worse to a child than being forced into a marriage where they're going to be abused and have psychological damage. Yeah.
It's so weird to me. He brings up these things like, teenagers, they're getting uncontrollable urges and they're sexting, they're messaging nude pictures to each other, and this is all very bad. Therefore, we should marry them to 25-year-old men. Like,
it's also kind of weird because he thinks it would like solve porn, but like studies have shown that like married couples sometimes struggle with porn. So like just because you marry them off, that doesn't mean that people are going to stop watching porn. I mean, like, you want to get rid of porn, you got to change the culture. You can't just marry people off.
And then like with his mindset, with if people have desires, you have to give them an outlet to satisfy those particular desires. Who's going to want to marry a 5-year-old girl? Some freaking pedophile who's looking at the pictures, right? So you got to go find an actual pedophile to marry your 5-year-old daughter, and then of course the pedophile, his desires are satisfied, and of course your 5-year-old, I guess in Daniel's mind, those
nobody cares about her. He just I don't know if you've seen it, David, but there was a video going around that I just came across yesterday. Another Muslim actually shared that video of Daniel Haqiqatjou mocking little girls in Afghanistan who cannot go to school anymore. You know, there's an interview of those girls going to school and then being banned from entering the school because of the Taliban now, and they are crying. And Daniel Haqiqatjou posts a voice recording on Telegram to mock the little girls and says stuff like, "Oh, I can't go to school." In fact, I should play that just to show how disgusting these.
Yeah, but by the way, if you're pulling that up, think about how these things are connected, right? You could, and this is the position of someone like Yasser Qadi. and Jonathan Brown and so on, they acknowledge that Aisha was 9 when Muhammad had sex with her. They acknowledge that kind of thing. And these are Muslim scholars. But they'll point out that well, times were different back then. Girls didn't, go to a certain number of years of school and then to college and so on. They didn't do all this stuff. And therefore there was nothing for the girls to do. And so they might as well go ahead and get married young. But they point out, well, the world has changed. It's not like that anymore. Now girls, go to school and decide what they want to do. And they have all these decisions to make before they need to be thinking about marriage. So they're saying it was okay then, but yes, it would be different now because we live in a different world where things are different. But notice if they have any sort of valid point from an Islamic perspective, you've got Daniel and the Taliban trying to reverse that. Well, let's destroy the concept of girls going to school, make it so that they have absolutely nothing to do. And that way no one's going to complain when we marry them when they're 5 and 6 and 7, because there's nothing else for the girls to do. So that they're actually, in a strange way, they're actually granting that there's a connection, that there's a reason for not marrying young girls now. And they want to destroy those reasons.
Yeah.
There's a study called Association of Adult Depression with Educational Attainment, Aspirations, and Expectations, which just shows that when you have low educational aspirations and low education, it's associated with higher rates of depression. So yeah, education would be good for girls because it's better for their mental health.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let me play this. So this was posted by this guy called Knowledge North, who is the same traditionalist Salafi Muslim guy who actually was very critical of Ali Dawa and how he
he was working with
Sajid Lipam.
Sajid.
Yeah.
They were tag teaming some stuff.
Yeah, this guy is an interesting guy. I don't want to praise him very much now, so that people don't attack him for being praised by an ex-Muslim enemy of Islam. But so he put this together, and I hope it is not too loud.
وقتی دیروز خبر شنیدم خیلی خوشایند بود برام، با خدا اشک ریختم. اما امروز خیلی جگر خودم. Oh no, I can't go to school. Oh. Why can't they let me go to school like they do in America and Europe? I can't go to school. This is our dear friend Daniel Haqiqatjou, who reacts to girls who can't go to school in Taliban Afghanistan, Muslim girls, and he just, as a grown adult, mocks those girls.
Yeah, that's sexist.
Got some real winners. Got some real winners here.
Yeah.
I've been seeing Muslims on Twitter that have been saying, like, if I wanted to hire someone to make Islam look bad, they could not have done a good job as Daniel Haqiqatjou is now.
I know. People are saying that he's much better than me in as an enemy of Islam, and I agree. Actually, I can't be as good as him.
And notice, there are two reasons for praising Daniel. One, he's really sticking to Islam, so you can give him that credibility here. He's really, really sticking to his guns on Islam. And on the other hand, he's really doing more than just about anyone else to expose the sick nature of Islam. So it's like the more someone sticks to his guns on Islam, the better he is at exposing it. And that should, Muslims who are watching, that should be troubling to you. Like the more honest someone is about your religion, the more freakishly horrifying it is to everyone in the entire world.
That's true. That is true. But anyway, enough about the crazy people. Let's move on to other crazy people. But first off, Emmanuel Frey said the mocking could have been funny at least. Wow.
Right. It was just cringe.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, make it funny. It was like when Andrew Tate made that video making fun of Greta Thunberg, but like her tweet was funnier than his entire video, and it's like you're trying to act like you owned her and she's funnier than you.
And then he got back. It was like, what she said doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, so stupid.
Some Muslims need to hire some comedy writers. I had one guy reply to me, and he called me Mike Myers. You guys get it? Because there's a famous guy named Mike Myers. My name is Mike. Oh man, classic.
Wow.
Hey.
Oh boy.
Hey, they could put you in a Michael Myers mask and call you Michael Myers. Oh, burn! You got Halloweened.
Wow. Oh boy. What are we dealing with here?
Feminist sisters who love.
So let's bring this up here. Thank you, Hassan Corner, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And let's look into this. So we are talking about a case where these Muslim apologists are sitting together and basically arguing in favor of taking multiple wives after having a first wife behind the back of the first wife. So the first wife does, you are married to a regular woman, you have children, and without her knowledge, you go and marry other wives. She knows nothing about it. She thinks you're just there doing different things. Meanwhile, you have different families, different wives, and she knows nothing about. And this is okay according to Islam. According to these people, that's what they are saying. So let's look at that.
Feminist sisters who love their sisters, who will die for their sisters, will take a bullet for their sisters, but will not share their husbands for their sisters. You can lie.
It's just.
How dare they?
It's so cringe to even like if you loved me, you'd share me with your friends, honey. What's wrong with you? It's like, don't you love me? Don't you love them? They really want to have sex with me. Haven't you been talking about that with them?
I thought you loved me.
Did you guys see? Did you guys see that video of that young Muslim girl? I think it was on TikTok or something. She was actually telling she's clearly been conditioned.
Oh yeah,
like that's what that's what they're doing in all of this. They're conditioning women to believe that the more open they are to bringing their girlfriends home to their husbands, the better wives they are and the better they are in the eyes of Islam. They're conditioning these girls, and now the girls are actually going out and doing it. But there was that girl on like TikTok or something. She was saying, your life will change as soon as you start bringing your girlfriends home for your husband to enjoy. Your life will get better. And I'm like, yeah, lots of guys are going to love you they're going to say, man, I got the best wife. I got the best wife in the world, bringing me home all their friends. They are. You will find guys who really, really love having a wife like that. But
I did a response to her on.
Oh, that girl on that woman on TikTok, right?
Yeah, the idea. Yeah, that's the direction things are heading in, and that. Yeah, you will impress your husband like that, but doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Back in January, I did a response to her, and then a bunch of Muslim men got mad at me for that. And so I cited some meta-analyses, and then they tried to come back because they started taking them out of context. And I had to like respond by pointing out, you guys don't know what the Bible says, and you guys are getting these studies blatantly wrong across the board. And it was just like wild to watch them desperately try to defend something that has been proven in sociological studies to cause massive harm to women.
Yeah. She's one of those women who like to build a community of men who really want women to say stuff that men like, and she appeals to that audience. It's just cringy, very, very cringy.
Yo, AP, you got a comment here. Someone said, I married a Muslim and did not know he already had 2 wives. I asked if he practiced or believed in polygamy. He lied. As soon as I found out, I quickly annulled the non-marriage.
Wow.
So these are people who are signing up for, you go get your Islamic marriage, even though it's not official in the eyes of the state, because you have your one marriage that's official, that you're officially married as far as the state is concerned. And then you get your extra marriages on the side. And then, not all women are aware of this when they're signing on.
Yeah. Anyway, so women think they show love, but then they are unable to share their husband. It's just terrible.
Mm-hmm. Your spouse. You can lie to your spouse. But can they lie in the context of, for example, if one says, "I sense that you've got a second wife," can he say, "No, I don't"?
Yes, you can. You can say that.
You can say that.
Yes, I personally believe this is the Prophet said you can do it.
It's funny, right? You can lie to the closest person in your life, your wife at home. You can lie to her about something so significant. That's okay. It's all right. It's Islam, man.
My favorite reaction is the women going, "Wait, what? Wait, what?" Like they're just dumbfounded. This is actually the case. Like,
I find it actually interesting that they made this show with
The
women
Prophet said you can do it.
sitting there and showing their face. I think I don't know. I was a little
I-
surprised.
Yeah, look at this squad here.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when Hijab was at Speaker's Corner saying that if you just read the Quran, you'll get the indication that you can have sex with a 5-year-old, and there are all these women standing around like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? What did you say? It's like, ladies, how are you just now learning all of this? We were saying this 15 years ago, and all your da'is called us liars. Now they're telling you to your faces, and you guys are all shocked.
The one on the left looks like she doesn't really want to be there, and the third one looks very disturbed. But I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. Who are these people? How did this even come into existence? I don't understand.
Yeah, are these are these like randomly selected women from the mosque? Or are these guys' wives, or who? I don't know who these.
I don't think they're their wives. I think it's just like a
Hey,
talk between Muslim men and women.
hey, maybe these are the candidates for like second wives, secret second wives. I don't know.
Wait a minute. So this is called the Bitter Truth Show, and this is something that Ali Dawa himself created and hosts. I'm completely unaware of this. And there are so far 7 episodes of them just inviting women and having them talk to men and then say all these horrible things to them. What in the world is? I wasn't even aware of that aspect here. So this is Ali Dawa's own creation, a podcast of a show called The Bitter Truth Show.
Oh, this is going to be a gold mine, man. If they're going
What
this
in the world, man?
Hey, why do they keep saying truth instead of hawk? Doesn't hawk sound like this could be called? He had one chance to name his show The Harsh Hawk, and he didn't do it, man. The harsh hawk. Welcome to my new show, The Harsh Hawk, where we're gonna show you women's that you needs to be cool with us getting the secret wives and the secret sex slaves. And as our brother Daniel Haqiqatjou, he's pointed out, it does not matter as long as she reached precocious puberty at 11 months, then we can have her as the sex slave or the secret second, third, fourth wife. You know.
You are bringing up an important point, which is that Daniel Haqiqatjou said these things publicly now, and Ali Dawa likes to suck up to Daniel Haqiqatjou, probably because of Daniel Haqiqatjou's fight with Sajid Libham. And now maybe this will encourage him and others to look for younger wives. Stay tuned. Find out more soon.
Who do we contact to prevent that?
Yeah.
Someone said he should call the show Ali Dawa's Playhouse of Insanity.
Oh boy, it's ridiculous, man. Go ahead.
Oh, I just find it ironic that the show is called The Bitter Truth, and they're telling, no, we can lie all we want. It's fine. Like,
that is funny. And the bitter truth is only bitter to women, of course. You know, it's it is established by Ali Dawa, and they're just there to tell women the bitter truth.
And by the way, ladies, make sure you don't tell anything we're discussing to our wives, or they might get in on. They might know what's going on.
The Prophet said you can do it,
and we're proud of that.
It doesn't have to be white. It can be a black line. If someone does this and they get caught, for example, or something happens, or
she just asks him, "Where were you last night?"
Yeah, but even that, he can lie. The man can do it. It's up to the man. No woman can take that right away from the man.
Aside from Islam, I think my integrity, my dignity, my who I am as a person.
Oh, wait a minute. There will be a harsh response to this, I guess. The way she started it, aside from Islam.
Yeah, that was a bad note saying aside from Islam.
That was a terrible move.
Yeah. Yes. If you completely ignore that we're entirely justified in Islam for doing this, it would be wrong. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about in some fantasy world. We're talking about Islam here.
Yeah. You can't do that.
I would think it's so disrespectful for my husband to go and marry somebody else secretly. That to me is cheating.
It's like a slap
Even
in
if
the
it
face.
is Islamically correct.
This idea of aside Islam, we're Muslims. There is no aside Islam in this discussion. But I'm speaking to a Muslim. So there is no aside Islam here. The true religion, which I'm now expected as a Muslim man to follow, is not the religion of al-Islam. It's the religion of women's feelings. I'm not going to do this. So I'm saying now we go back to the book and the Sunnah.
What exactly is a secret marriage? It is not made public. It's not publicized.
So the point is...
Oh, boy. Anything anyone wants to say about this whole thing so far?
Well, as you might expect, research does show that people prefer mates or spouses that are truthful. Personality and mate preference, 5 factors in mate selection and marital satisfaction, shows that, of course, anyone will prefer a mate that has higher levels of agreeableness. And agreeableness is one of the 5 big personality traits, which are openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Acronym OCEAN. And agreeableness is a trait that aligns with trust, honesty, altruism. So, he's basically saying to the whole world that I make a bad spouse. I make a bad husband because I have low levels of agreeableness. So I'm going to lie to my spouse and go out and cheat on her.
That's very interesting to me, which is so many Muslim apologists, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and I would say also maybe Mohammed Hijab and the others. They like to talk about social cohesion, which Daniel Haqiqatjou likes to reference, and how you need to get rid of stuff that destroys a society and lowers trust and atheism, apostasy, and this and that. But then here are these men saying it is entirely justified and okay in Islam, maybe even good, that they lie to their wives. Now that aspect, so that doesn't look like cohesion within the family, let alone cohesion in society. And also another aspect is, think about it. These guys are ready to lie about their lives to the core of their family. How do you think? Do you think you can trust them as somebody who is an outsider?
Yeah, well, I mean, they claim they want social cohesion and orderly society, but I mean, research shows polygamy does lead to more political instability. Because if the top 10%, the wealthy, are taking more women, the bottom 30% tend to be single. And that leads to them joining militant groups, fighting back because they have this testosterone. They can't have a wife to, settle down with a family. So they join these type of groups. And this notion that I've seen some Muslims say, well, there's more women than men, so there's more women to go around, is just blatantly false.
That's completely false.
Yeah, there's 102 men per 100 women in the world. And that's historical. To quote Bart Ehrman, this is what Bart Ehrman says in his lecture, Lost Gospel on Judas Discovered, Part 2. He says, in the ancient world, except in times of real serious war, men outnumbered women all the time. Men outnumbered women all the time because so many women died in childbirth. And so there were always more men than women, which means every man could not be married. So there's never been any sort of practical reason to be polygamous in society. There's never been, except in very rare instances, multiple women to go around. So this is just ridiculous.
I have to say something here. Bart Ehrman as a source would have been very popular a year or two ago to Muslims, but ever since he publicly disagreed with Islam and even kind of mockingly rejected its claims, and also said that the Quran cannot be trusted in terms of history and Jesus, Muslims don't like him anymore. So invalid source, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they didn't like him anymore. Okay, I guess all my sources are wrong.
Yeah. What makes me what surprises me is I wonder if these. Let me bring this back. I wonder if these guys have got backlash because of this whole show so far, because they have women here who are not appropriately covered according to their expectations, and
That's right.
I'm pretty sure a lot of Muslims, traditionalist Muslims, have a problem with that. And these guys are just sitting here and just directly looking at them and interacting with them and zooming in on their faces and letting their showing their hair.
Yeah, these dudes aren't lowering their gazes at all. Women are sitting here, but I guess it's like, oh, it's worth it though, as long as we educate these women and make them turn them into good Islamic girls who don't question what we say, then we're good.
Maybe that's the logic. It's like, it's like going to the doctor and taking her clothes off. It serves a purpose. So,
And to show you what I was talking about, let me think. Hey, Job, would you like to? Oh, I love to.
Oh boy.
So the point is this, let me be real, yeah? If you got a good husband, he comes and he says, I want a second wife, all hell breaks loose. And then we blame this man. Yeah, but why are you keeping it secret? What else should he do?
And so they...
What logic? Wow. You could apply the same logic to a lot of things in the world that are very terrible.
Think about this. I want to bang this other girl. Besides my wife, I want to bang this other girl, and then my wife, she's getting upset about it. How I know that he's going to get upset about it. So of course I was going to lie. How can you blame me? That's what these guys are actually saying, right? Like, we want to. I married you, but I wanna go have sex with other women that I'm gonna Islamically married on the side, and I know you're gonna be upset about that. That's why I lie to your face. Why would you get mad about that? Why would you get? It's your fault. It's your fault for getting upset that I want other women. Shame on you. Shame on you.
To be fair, every room where Ali Dawa is present, he's probably the least intelligent in the room. So that just came from him. So I'm not. Yeah.
Are these guys polygamous? Like, do you think they have other wives? Like,
publicly, I think no.
This is a way of gently breaking it, breaking the news. Yeah. Oh, hypothetically, maybe if a situation arose,
Wow. So I'm wondering now.
Hey, wife, did you watch that show? What does you think about that? Are you a good wife, like the kind that we's describing, or is you one of them wives who would be upset?
It's funny that your Ali Dawa sounds a little bit like Ali G in the way he.
Well, that's how I think of him. I mean,
Oh yeah. Okay, so that's deliberate. I see. Yeah. Oh boy.
They perform the marriage in somebody's house, and there are two witnesses present, and nobody knows about this.
When the Prophet, he kept a secret from some of his wives. Some scholars, I'm not going to go into detail, but some scholars actually.
Oh, wait.
Connect this
with Mary the Copt.
With Maria the Copt, lying is not allowed for three things.
This is funny. A lot of the times when we bring up this issue where Muhammad was lied to his wives and was caught having sex with his slave girl in his wife's house, and then they were angry at him, and then he said he will not do it again, and then Allah sent a revelation and said, no, you are allowed to do whatever you want. To never forbid yourself from doing such things. A lot of Muslims, when we bring this up, say, well, no, there are different interpretations, and this might just be about eating honey. He was not supposed to eat honey, and he ate honey, and that's why they got mad. And he said, I will never eat honey again. But then Allah sent a revelation down and said, you are allowed to eat honey. So, but this guy is here reiterating that this is actually about him having sex with his slave girl. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and just, I mean, that's one of those situations where you can read the Quran verse and then read their explanations, and you could tell which is obviously the correct explanation. For anyone who's new to this, right? You have the opening verses of Surah 66 of the Quran, which are talking about Muhammad has made an oath to his wives, and Allah's telling him, hey, it's okay to break that oath you made to your wives. And then, so the question is, what's this about? You got two competing stories. One is Muhammad got caught in the bed of Hafsa, his wife Hafsa, with his slave girl, Mary the Copt, while Hafsa's out running some errands. She comes back early, catches him in bed with his sex slave. And he's like, please don't tell Aisha. Please don't tell Aisha. She's going to complain. I'm going to look bad. And then Hafsa blabs it to everyone. And then it's this big ordeal and so on. But then you have this competing story where his wives are complaining that he smelled like honey, like he was eating this honey, and they were mad about it. And so they had this big dispute over there. It's like, okay, what's the real story behind this that was so embarrassing? Is it really about honey?
The funny thing is, honey sounds like a comparison. For
The second one sounds like an episode. The second one sounds like an episode of Winnie the Pooh. They caught eating honey. No, I wasn't eating honey.
Stop lying, Christopher Robin. I don't even remember what he sounds like.
No, Piglet.
It gets funnier the more you think about that.
Someone should do a cartoon of that honey episode. And he's Winnie, like they come up to him, like the characters from Winnie the Pooh come up to him and are like, Muhammad, are you eating our honey?
Hey, by the way, everyone, look at these verses. So you can read the historical background in Tafsir Jalalain. You have hadiths about this being connected to Mary the Copt. But look at it. Oh, Prophet, why did you prohibit? So the historical background is Muhammad gets caught. He tells Hafsa, keep her mouth shut because he doesn't want his wives complaining. His wives complain, hey, what are you doing? I mean, you're literally having sex with your slave girls in our beds, in our houses, right? In our houses while we're out, we go out and you jump in our beds. You've got this sweaty sex slave that you're boning in my bed, and then I'm coming back and laying down in the bed with soaked in the sweat of your slave girl. What the heck, right? They're flipped out. They're flipping out about this. Then Muhammad, I swear by Allah, I will not do that again. I will stop having sex with my slave girl. I will not go near her again. And this is Allah's response. Oh, Prophet, why did you prohibit yourself from what Allah has made lawful to you, seeking the approval of your wives? So you took an oath saying that you would stop having sex with your slave girl. Allah says, I didn't tell you to do that. You're trying to make your wives happy. Why do you care about making your wives happy, idiot? I said you could do it. Why are you trying to make your wives happy? And then what's he saying? Next verse, Allah has already ordained for you the dissolution of your oaths. So I swear by Allah, I will never do that again. Oh, Allah didn't tell me to say that. I take back my oath. It's totally canceled. I'm good to go. And this is, notice, this is Allah telling his prophet it's okay to break an oath he swore to his wives in the name of Allah. And Allah says, break that oath, man. Go bone that slave girl. He did. He got
do whatever you want. You are the prophet. You have the sexual strength of 30 men. You cannot help yourself. You need to do this. You need to go and have sex with your slave girls and with all the women you can find in the world, but only you, not anybody else. Only you.
And I'm really glad that's what Allah cares about. You know,
notice that, I mean, Allah's sending a message here. These Muslims, Ali Dawah and Muhammad Hijab, they've absorbed this. Why do you care about seeking the approval of your wives? Why do you care? You can see that running through this discussion. We're not here for you. We're not here to please you. This is not the religion of your feelings. This is a religion of submission to Allah.
Yeah, we don't care about your feelings. We care about Allah. Doesn't care about your feelings. There should be the Ben Shapiro quote. Facts don't care about your feelings.
And what does Allah care about? That Muhammad gets to have sex with as many women as he wants. That's very important.
That's Allah. Allah cares about two things. One, getting Muhammad as many sexual partners as Muhammad could dream of. And two, making sure everyone walks, talks, eats, thinks, and breathes like a 7th century Arab. What those are the things Allah cares about.
This just reminds me of the song "It Wasn't Me" by Shaggy.
Wasn't me.
Yeah.
Hey, we should make a video like vocab as Muhammad, but that's the music. We make a music video. he comes out of the room. Wasn't me.
Yeah. Okay.
Picture this. We were both butt naked, banging on Hafsa's bed. Wasn't me?
Oh boy. Okay.
A man, two things. One of them is hadith al-rajul limra'ati. That when a man speaks to his wife.
And I take my selfish needs out of it, i.e., me wanting him all to myself. I need to understand them. So I need to sit down and I need to really think about how this is going to affect him.
Look at the girl beside her.
How
That is not selfish. That is not selfish.
Here's my question: are Muslim men children?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so selfish of me to keep him all to myself. He should get to go around and do whatever he wants. Like, why can't he just be an adult and control himself and realize he made a commitment to one woman in a monogamous relationship, and they both need to stay committed? Like, is it hard for her? Why doesn't the Muslim man go, I need to stop being so selfish and let her run around and sleep with all the men she wants? I mean, like, why is this always one way?
Yeah, well, yeah. Also, I mean, notice it's the entire basis for the argument is we want multiple women. We just have a desire to sleep with multiple women. You women have a desire for one man who's totally committed to you. So you women need to stop being selfish and let us get what we want. But notice what they're saying. Hey, it's not about, it doesn't matter what you want. It matters what we want. And why should you expect us to modify our desires for purposes of marriage when we can just do whatever we want? Meanwhile, they're saying you women have to modify your desires to make yourself okay with the idea of us boning lots of different women. And there's so notice the entire thing is it matters what we want, not what you want. And you need to change your thinking to bring it in line with the fact that we want sex with lots of different women.
Yeah. And just for anyone saying like, well, if someone is like one of these traditional Muslim guys, the pushback, if they try to say something like, well, like someone's got to modify their desires. Well, again, I have meta-analytical research we can go over in a little bit, which shows that polygamy is extremely harmful to women and children. So when men just modify their desires and become monogamous, guess what? It doesn't cause harm. When women have to modify their desires and let their husbands go around and have multiple wives, it causes immense harm to the women and the children in these situations. So what is the better route here? What is actually
it's not like men are given the option to besides having a wife at home to also go and randomly have sex or to have one more wife. They are given the option to have 3 additional wives, so a total of 4 wives, children with all of them, because they are supposed to breed to increase the number of the Muslim community. Plus, they are also allowed to have an unlimited number of sex slaves by fighting for Islam, for Allah.
And you can think about how that's just going to cause so much political instability, because again, as we've established, there are more men in the world and have been, and there always has been throughout most of history. So when a Muslim man has 3 wives, okay, then there are 2 other men over there who don't have any wives. What is going to happen? Well, again, it leads to political instability because they end up joining militia groups that attack the ruling elites to take the women and the wealth and everything else. So again, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
It's testing her to see how she responds. If she decides to do the opposite, which is, throw the divorce card or throw this card, then ultimately she's falling into the act of disobedience.
Thank you.
Ali Dawa saying thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
very well said. We're proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Ali Dawa was like, you know what? I want my wife to listen to this. Could you talk to her?
But I mean, guys, this is hilarious to us, but I mean, this is messed up. I mean, what are they doing? They're the leaders of Dawah, the champions of Dawah, are realizing we need to more actively and aggressively condition women to think that they're the ones with the problem. If they have a problem with us having multiple wives, we need to condition them. We need to insert it into the ideas of the Ummah, which has already been there, but they're trying to make it more clear and explicit. We need to convince these women that the more open they are to us having second wives, the better they are. You are a good woman. You are a good wife if you don't want me all to yourself and you're okay with me having multiple wives. Then you're good. If you only want me all to yourself, you're a bad, selfish wife, and you're bad before Allah. You're a bad Muslim woman. You're just all around bad. I mean, you can't blame me from divorcing you, so I get a better wife than you because you're garbage. Those are the ideas that they're trying to insert into these women's heads, and I mean, seems like they can do it pretty easily and pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, you're onto something, because there was a psychologist, Anna C. Sattler. She wrote a book called Predators.
Don't make up names, man. Wait, is that did she make Daniel's laptop?
Okay. It was all part of our master plan, yes, to make sure that was on his laptop. Yeah. But she wrote a book called Predators, where she looks at like rapists, pedophiles. A lot of the times these victims are groomed. She uses the word manipulated. She says they manipulated the children's affections through bribes, gifts, games. Predators often spend a lot of time grooming the family before they start grooming the victim. They groom everyone around them to make them think this is the way to go. So a lot of times these victims, women or children in these kind of incidents, think everything is fine because they have been manipulated. So what's interesting in the meta-analysis that I will get to in a little bit, the women often report they're happy. They love it. But then they have all these mental issues. They develop, a lot of women in these polygamous relationships develop something called first wife syndrome, which they're obviously jealous of the younger new wives that have come in, and it causes all sorts of psychiatric issues. And so they may be reporting they're happy, but they're falling into a similar mentality that people like who have Stockholm syndrome have. They think they're being protected and they're happy. Really, they're suffering from all sorts of mental deterioration.
And by the way, you see all of this in the life of Muhammad, and you can see how this will all play out. And it's not going to go the way these women want, because we talk about, hey guys, have some self-control. We know lots of guys have a desire to have sex with lots of women. The idea of entering into a marriage is saying, hey, I'm committing to you. Yes, just biologically the way I was born. I have lots of desires to have sex and so on. I'm committing completely to you. And then these guys are coming along saying from an Islamic perspective, no, you don't have to do that. And so they want these women to be okay with the concept of having additional wives based on this man's desires. But yes, as you just pointed out, wait, this man's desires, now there's a competition among wives going on, and this guy's bringing in younger, hotter wives. Guess what? You're just going to keep getting older. You, the original wife, you're just going to keep getting older and older and older. And if this guy has never learned to actually commit, and he's just always going with what his desires tell him, what happens when you are way past your prime and he can divorce you and trade you in for a younger model? What's he supposed to do? Oh, his desire is for the younger, hotter wife. That's exactly what we see in the life of Muhammad. Muhammad, once his wife Khadijah died, he married two people after that. There are disputes about it, but it's Sauda and Aisha. Sauda was a woman who's closer in age to Muhammad, and then he married his little child bride. Later on, after Muhammad had married a bunch of new wives, Sauda was said to be old and overweight and unattractive to him, and so Muhammad was going to divorce her to make room for another wife. And then Sauda agreed to lay aside, because no one was allowed to marry Muhammad's wives after him. So she would have just been like kicked to the curb. So she actually comes to an arrangement. Hey, the night that you would spend with me, give that to Aisha. So now you can spend twice as much time with your favorite little child bride, and just ignore me, but don't divorce me, because I have no way of surviving if you divorce me. And the Quran actually praises her for coming to that arrangement. So, I mean, this is real life stuff where if your husband is just going with whatever he wants most, and you're okay with that, hey, just go with your desires. Okay, guess what? You hit 40, 45, 50, 55, and he can trade you in for an 8 or 9-year-old, or, I mean, Daniel's calling the shots, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old or something like that. And your guy's a total pervert and he has no self-control. What's he going to do? Is this
perfect man?
Come on.
Perfect man.
Yeah. And this guy is supposedly better than the Apostle Paul, who said in 1 Corinthians 7 that the husband's body belongs to the wife as the wife's body belongs to the husband. Like,
he's weak. He's weak for saying that. All the women belong to all the women's bodies belong to me.
You see?
Good. So here's the source. It says, Asha told when they were with Ibn Abbas, is this the one? Yeah, am I reading this right? Soda and the soda.
You're not even in the right hadith, man.
I don't know if I'm actually reading the right thing here. This is God's messenger's wife. So when you lift her, do not shake her or disturb her. Be gentle with her. Wait a minute. I don't even know if I pulled up the right thing. She died and risen. Said that someone other than Atta declared she was Sauda, and that is Sauda. She gave her day to Aisha when God's messenger intended to divorce her, saying to him, "Keep me. I have given my day to Aisha, the young child bride whom he loved so much. Perhaps I may be one of your wives in paradise." There are other hadiths which say that he then just accepted it and she stayed his wife, and but she didn't have any sexual interactions with him anymore because he didn't like her.
This sounds so depressing. I feel so bad for her just reading this.
Yeah. Well, Muhammad did the right thing because he's the perfect human who ever walked the face of the earth. So who are you to feel bad, dear dear Mike?
You could, by the way, AP, if you wanted to pull it up, that's in Surah 4. The verse, Allah's response to this. Surah 4, verse 128.
128. Oh yeah. Oh, that's definitely.
Allah responds. So Sauda finds out that Muhammad's going to divorce her, and then she basically pleads to Muhammad, "Hey, I will renounce some of my marital privileges. I'll give my night of the week to Aisha, so you get to spend. If you don't divorce me, you get to spend twice as much time with your child bride." And if a woman fears indifference or neglect from her husband, there is no blame on either of them if they seek fair settlement, which is best. Humans are ever inclined to selfishness. But if you are gracious and mindful of Allah, surely Allah is aware of what you do. So this is actually notice the what's the next translation? What is that? Sahih Internet?
Why I might go to Sahih International. I don't have that here. Let me see.
No, I wasn't. I was just asking what translation it was, but you can read any of those. But
that was Clear Quran, I think. Here, this is Sahih International.
Yeah, just scroll down to another translation. Oh no.
No, I looked up a different thing. If you want all the translations, I can get you that.
I was just saying, bring up a couple translations, man. What are you doing?
I will do that. I will do that right here.
And if a woman fears from her husband contempt or evasion, I'm just looking at the different translations. If a woman fears ill treatment from her husband or desertion, Yusuf Ali, if a wife fears cruelty or desertion on her husband's part, there's no blame on them if they arrange an amicable settlement between themselves. So this is about Sauda saying, hey, Muhammad is going to divorce me. I'm not even allowed to marry another man after him. So I'm about to be kicked to the curb forever. Hey, I'll just keep making sure I have food, Muhammad, and you can spend more time with your child bride. And Allah praises her for it. Notice the response could have been, why would you think that Muhammad would divorce you just because you're getting old and overweight and unattractive? Do you think that the greatest man is going to kick you to the curb because you're overweight and you're old now? Do you think he's going to just kick you to the side and trade you in for a younger model now? Of course not. He's the perfect man. He's the pattern of conduct. He would never do that. That's not what it says. It says, good job, girl. Good job. Made a wise decision. You're a wise woman saying, oh, fine. If Muhammad doesn't want to see me anymore, he doesn't have to. Just don't abandon me so that I starve.
Yeah. Pretty messed up. There's also another Quran verse, which I don't know which one. I don't remember which one that is, which basically threatens Muhammad's wives and says that if they bother him, that he may divorce them and Allah will give him new wives.
If you continue in Surah 66, you start getting some of those. Let me see. Let me pull it up here. Dang it! I can't get on my Quran site anymore. This king keeps jamming. What is that?
Oh, here, Quran. let's have this here. Quran chapter 66 verse 5. It says, perhaps his Lord, if he divorced you all, would substitute for him wives better than you, submitting, believing, devoutly obedient, repentant, worshiping, and traveling. Traveling means fit, being able to move around.
And by the way, notice it's, hey, you ladies who are complaining about him having sex with his slave girl in your beds while you're out, and now you've caught him, and he tried to get you to shut up about it, but now Allah told him it's okay for him to break his oath because he swore an oath saying he wouldn't do it anymore, and that made you happy, and now you're complaining. Your bad wives, he could give you better wives. Allah could give Muhammad better wives than you. So why are these wives bad? They're bad because they objected to the idea that when they go out to go shopping, he jumps in their beds with one of his slave girls. And shame on you. Shame on all of you.
Terrible wives. Terrible.
It's the exact same mentality of these Muslim da'is trying to lecture these women on how they're supposed to be. If you're the bad ones, you ladies are the bad ones. If you have a problem with us boning lots of women, you're the bad wives here. We're not bad. We're not bad if we're out doing this stuff. We're not bad. You're bad.
Terrible women.
So Allah gaslights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allah does what the abusive guy would do in that relationship.
Hey, that's his 100th name. Allah, the gaslighter.
The greatest of gaslighters.
He's the greatest of gas. He's the best of gaslighters. AP, you should make a video called Allah, the best of gaslighters.
That's good. Let's get back to our dear friends here. I muted the tab.
Is with all due respect,
Disobedience.
Thank you.
This is with all due respect. I'm like your father, huh? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you are not a man enough to get married to a second woman, don't even dream about it, because your first will come in your dreams and give you hell. This is a well-known fact. They have the power.
Islamic.
But by the way, notice how they put everything, right? Like, you got to be man enough to have all these wives. You want to be a man enough, and you women, you're bad unless you're okay with it. And they're conditioning people. Like, the more wives you have, the more manly you are. And if you're a wife, the more of a problem you have with that, the worse you are as a wife. And it's just
it is just so funny, the conflict of emotions, of ideas that this guy just presented. You have to be man enough and strong enough to be man enough to have a second wife, and if you otherwise you might get a second wife, and your woman might be terrifying and come into your dreams, because that's how women are. So
apparently he thinks women are witches and practice all witchcraft. Like, they'll get in your dreams and they'll scare you. This is a fact. It's scientifically proven.
It's weird that they actually think of it like that. Like, I was arguing with a Muslim one day about Muhammad and Aisha, and the Muslim started saying, well, she was flirting with him. She was flirting with him when she was young, and I was like, "When?" It was like, "Yeah, before their engagement, she was flirting with him." And I was like, "When was so they arranged the marriage when she was 6? So was she like 5 or something like that when she was flirting? When was she flirting with him? What's your source?" And he goes, "When she came to him in his dream." And I was like, "Wait, when Muhammad had the dream that an angel was giving him this 6-year-old, that was her flirting with him?" He goes, "Yes, that was her flirting. She was flirting with him in a dream." Right?
Imagine you're an adult, you're a 50-year-old man, and you say, my friend's 6-year-old daughter, she was hitting on me in my dream, and I think she wants to get married to me.
This is why we have the Second Amendment for something like that.
If
someone said that about my daughter, I would be like, you have 3 seconds to start running before something happens. You do not say that. But you know what? Notice what he said. Like, you're not man enough if you don't have a second wife. As we've already established, it's established fact there have always been more men than women. So think of the lower class men in Islamic societies that are being told, you're not man enough if you don't have 2 wives. And they can't even get 1 because, again, the upper class has taken multiple wives. Okay, what do you think that's going to lead to? It's going to lead to political instability, insurgent groups trying to fight the ruling class to get the wives to prove they're men. This is just a recipe for social disaster.
And you've already had Andrew Tate commenting in his tweets and stuff, basically.
That's what
saying,
I was just thinking.
Yeah, basically saying you're not a real man unless you have 4 wives and you're raising up the next generation and stuff. But he's been posting all this stuff that notice they're associating this with manliness. A real man is not a guy who controls his desire and commits completely to a woman and then honors that commitment. That's not a real man. A real man is a guy who has no control at all over his desires and just spends his entire life satisfying his desires like his prophet did.
A real man breaks his oaths, lies to his wives, has multiple secret wives. They may even be underage. Who knows? And then he can just divorce them when he wants younger ones. You know.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the tweet from Andrew Tate, but now I can't find it anymore. Where he says, "Imagine not having multiple wives." And
yeah, that was back before his arrest, so that was like December or something like that, early December.
Yeah, I can't. I'm even searching for the terms, but I can't find it now.
By the way, this entire show, you could tell it's a mirror of what Andrew Tate did. There was a Andrew Tate video circulating where he had 4 women sitting down, and he's lecturing these women. This is like from his clubbing days, so this is not like post-Islam. This is him talking to women about a high value man. It's basically, if you've got a man who's got a Bugatti and he's got an awesome house and plenty of money. He says that man has he's got his choice of women. He can pick any woman he wants. And he says, so what kind of woman is that guy going to choose? Is he going to choose a woman who's okay with him cheating on the side? Or is he going to choose a woman who complains and is wondering, hey, where'd you go? Where were you last night? Where did you go? And Andrew Tate was saying that man is going to choose a woman who's okay with him cheating. That's who he's going to pick as his girlfriend, because that allows him to go and satisfy his desires. And so he's telling these women that if they want a high value man, they need to be okay with him cheating. These guys saw it, and they have a different justification. It's justified in Islam for them, but they're doing the exact same thing. What Tate has, oh, that's funny. What Tate has,
I was just looking for an Andrew Tate tweet, and I was wondering why I can't find it, looking for all the words, and then it turns out he blocked me.
That makes 2 of us. Wow. Top G there.
Top G, tough guy there, blocked me.
But notice, so they see this from their hero. Notice Andrew Tate didn't give them the idea that it's okay to have multiple wives. They're getting that from Islam. What Andrew Tate showed them is that you can just sit women down and tell them they're bad and low value unless they are willing to submit to a guy's desires, and that there are plenty of women in the world who will just go, okay, if that's what it takes to make me a good girl, then that's what I'll do, and they'll take it and accept it. And now you've got the da'is going, hey, we can pull this same stunt here and tell women. So notice, in the case of Andrew Tate, it was in the context of, hey, if a guy is loaded, he has tons of money, he's providing for all of you. Guess what? He's taking care of his end of the deal. You need to keep your mouth shut if this guy's boning all the girls he wants. And then the Muslims, the Muslim da'is, they're doing the same thing, but it's, hey, if you want to be a good Muslimah, then Allah is okay with this. So you can only be a good Muslimah if you're okay with us having tons of wives. They're doing the exact same thing. They're just offering an additional justification, which Andrew Tate would now support.
I'm still stuck at Andrew Tate blocking me. I don't even know why.
What took you so long? He blocked me. He blocked me a while back.
I don't even know if I said anything, if I responded to him, or if I made a quote. Because look, you also see this here. It says you have muted tweets from this account. Because a while ago, maybe just a week ago or so, I thought, I'm sick of seeing this guy everywhere. So I just muted his account. That's what I do. I mute because I don't want to see it anymore. He sees the stuff that I post and he blocks me. It's funny, man. Wow. I'm
Top
blocked
G.
by the top G here.
Top G.
This is amazing.
Blocked by Top G.
Blocked by Top G. Hey, are you blocked by Top G? Is
I'm
any
not
of you
yet.
blocked by the top G?
No, he's not blocked me yet.
I'm cool. I'm blocked by top G.
Hey, you should get a T-shirt blocked by Top G.
Oh boy, that's funny. That is funny, man. Yeah.
See, there is no problem in a man getting married to another woman in Islam without the first wife's knowledge. There's actually, I've not seen one solitary difference of opinion in any of the 14 generations of Islam. It's not there.
See, here's the thing. I read about this, and just to refresh my memory, I looked it up once more on different channels of Muslim scholars and advices. The thing is, they all agree that it is okay, that it is allowed for a man to have secret wives and to not tell their first wife. They don't have such an obligation. They can hide it. But some sources, some scholars, like the other mainstream, not the Salafi scholars, many of them say it's not advisable, though. It's not the best thing to do.
But by the way, that is, I only watched. So you've got this sort of condensed compilation here from Hatun. I watched probably 25 minutes of it because the original video is like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. I watched probably the first 25 minutes of it. That is hijab's position. He's saying this is permissible, but that doesn't mean it's advisable to be doing this.
Oh, okay.
So he's saying yes, So it looks like the overall position is, hey, we need to get our wives to be on board with this. That's the idea, and it's kind of like, oh, if we have to go this inadvisable route, it's because our wives will be mad about it if we don't. So we need to keep them separate from this stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Which is?
Any scholar saying that no, a woman needs to know, she needs to tell her, doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's it.
We're talking about the religion of Islam.
That's none of you guys are okay with your husband getting a second wife. Can I just quickly get that out of the way? Sister Swad.
Absolutely not.
You're not okay with it? Sister.
It's a no from me. And if
Okay.
you have anything to say it now.
You're finished.
Yeah.
Sister Amira.
Wait. What is the relation here? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I don't know.
I don't know. She might be a wife of one of the 4 guys on the other side, but I don't know. It was a very weird thing. But I mean, like, how are any of these women going to walk away feeling they can trust their Muslim husbands now? If they're told their husbands are allowed to have a second wife, if they're told they're allowed to lie about it, I mean, it's just the paranoia is going to go through the roof now.
Anybody who who is watching who knows if these women are, related to these guys, or if who these people are, let me know. I'm really wondering, right? Because this whole interaction between the two. Wait, let's see that again.
Anything to say it now.
Okay, yeah. Sister.
It's a no from me. And if
Okay.
you have anything to say it now.
You're finished.
Yeah.
Sister Amira.
Huh.
Yeah, it didn't look like she was looking at Ali Dawa. It looked like she was looking at, because you can see where Ali Dawa's hand is, right? And she was looking like kind of right across from her. So yeah, looks like she is maybe the wife of one of the other guys.
Maybe.
Who's there. But yeah, I mean, IP brings up an interesting point. Like now that this is out in the open, it's like, now it's on you ladies. We've explained to you why we would have secret second wives. If we know that you guys are going to flip out over this stuff, then we're going to keep it a secret. So that would lead to paranoia. I mean, if the guys are now open saying, hey, we'll have secret second wives, and it's Islamically justified, and we would rather not have it this way. We'd rather have all you ladies be on board. But if you're not going to be, then we will have secret second wives. And if that's actually the position, then the only way you ladies cannot be paranoid is if you just tell us you're okay with us having second wives and you just want to know about it. Just so the only way, it's either be paranoid and never know, or tell us it's okay and then you'll know about it and you don't need to be paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty creepy. Welcome to Islam. Welcome to Islam. But you're bad if you have any problems here.
I can't even find this video on Aidawa's own channel. I don't understand.
It's not the bitter truth.
That's weird.
You want me to send you the link?
Yeah, why men get secret second wives, episode 8, bitter truth.
Okay,
yeah, it's on Ali Dawa's channel. Why men get secret second wives, episode 8, bitter truth show.
He didn't put it on the playlist of the.
Why don't you look in the live streams? Is it in the live streams or?
I don't think so.
I'm sitting here
I
looking.
found it.
Yeah, any idiot can find it. Everyone except.
No, I went on the linked podcast page of this this show, but he doesn't have it there, so he probably never added it there. Let's see.
I just sent a link to your email.
IP was.
Oh, there you go. You found it.
If they put me, hijab, brother Sirtaj, they would on lie detector tests. And they said the following questions. Do you love your wife? Yes. Pass. Would you die for her? Yes. Pass. If your wife was okay, would you get a second wife? Yes. Pass. There is not a conflict between a man loving his wife and a man wanting to be
Shut
polygamy.
up. I just want to find out what the thing is.
I agree. I get the polygamous. And
if one
What is it?
What are you doing?
If my
Up with the
benefit,
preview. I just want to see them introduced or something. Whatever. I don't care. I just want to find out if they say.
Oh, you're finding out. You're still trying to figure out who these ladies are?
Yeah.
They're
anyway, I don't
poor,
care.
Unfortunate souls.
It'd be funny if they're all like the wives of one dude.
All right.
Hey, but none of them know about it. none of them know, but they all keep looking at the same guy like, yeah, you better not have a secret second wife. And they're all like the wives of the same dude.
This is where they reveal it. At the end of the show, they come out with the big secret.
That could be an Islamic reality show.
Yeah.
Meet my second wife. Right?
Meet my other 3 wives. Yeah.
Yeah, and then wouldn't that be worth watching, right? Like you bring a woman out and you tell her it's one game show, but then she finds out that the real point of the game show is to meet the husband's secret second, third, fourth wives.
Yeah, I think that would be an amazing show.
And then it's like, can they get along? And if not, you just give the wife the boot.
Yeah, we're giving these people ideas here.
No, Sister Tyra.
And I won't be happy with it.
Sisters are under the impression.
So they all say we don't want our husbands to take second wives. Terrible.
You might want to replay that because that was important. So all these guys are, yeah, I'm okay with it. It's good. It's cool. It's good.
And then your husband getting a second wife. Can I just quickly get that out of the way, Sister Swad?
Absolutely not.
You're not okay with it? Yeah, Sister.
It's a no from me. And if you have anything to say it now.
You're finished.
Yeah.
Sister Amira.
Yeah, no.
No, Sister Tyra.
And I won't be happy with it.
Sisters are under the.
So none of them wants stuff like this. They are terrible wives, terrible women. They don't want their husbands to have other wives. They're selfish, terrible people, and Allah will punish them for that. Yeah. But here you see the contrast, where it's obviously something that the men here are in charge of, and the men want this because this is their own desire, and Allah's feelings and the men's feelings, and the women obviously don't want it, but they are supposed to sit here and be convinced that this is actually the right thing, that they are wrong. They are bad. The right thing is actually that men should be allowed to do whatever they want, and you guys should just be quiet because we are babies. We have feelings, and we cannot control those feelings. What do you want us to do? Do you want me to sit down and cry? No, I have to marry more wives.
That's what Ali Dawa says here, basically.
Yeah.
Someone came up with the name of my reality show. They call it Burqa Island.
Oh boy, yeah.
The impression that there is a man out there that is not polygamous because you guys are monogamous by nature, meaning you are.
Did you hear that? There are some stupid women here who think that there's a man out there who's not polygamous. How stupid can they be?
I don't even know where to start with this. Wow.
Yeah, because again, they break it down in the longer clip, but Ali Dawa's point is that men by nature are polygamous.
I know, and that's the argument.
Men want to have sex. Now notice it's if you're that's not polygamous by nature. That just means guys like to have sex with lots of different women by nature. And
here is the issue.
Islam says do that within the concept. Islam says that's fine. Just do it in this halal way. But the halal way is not. You can't say that's by nature. That kind of has to be imposed. So notice he would seem from an Islamic perspective to have an idea of, hey, what if I want to have sex with 50 different women a day. No, Islam says no, you get 4 wives. Well, I guess you could if you had enough sex slaves and so on, but it wouldn't be fine with you just running around having sex with women at random. So there seems to be some concept of you can't just do whatever you feel like doing. And yet the basis of the reasoning is, hey, this is how we are by nature, and therefore this is how Allah made us. So if Allah has made me to want to have sex with lots of women, why would I not do that?
Why didn't Allah make multiple? Why did Allah make basically the world where there's always going to be more men than women, if that's how men actually are? Like, why give them these desires and not
make them fight
to go around?
To make them
fight. Yeah. Well,
because now now the only way for you to go out and get all these women is to compete and go out and fight and violently.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue. Everybody, here's the issue. That idea that he just presented is completely wrong. It is known nowadays to be wrong. It's known nowadays to be false. This is not a fact. I'm sorry, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but this is not a scientifically correct assessment of how men and women are and how men and women feel. This is already updated scientific knowledge that the whole idea that only men are naturally polygamous, that only men naturally want to go out and have sex with multiple partners, that's false. We have updated studies, and I also gave them to Daniel Haqiqatjou when he was having a debate with Nuria Khan, and he said he would look into them, which I'm pretty sure he didn't. Women are just as naturally willing to have sex with multiple partners as men, according to the current updated science. A lot of people don't want to hear this, but this is the truth.
If you put that article I put up on the screen, you're right. Men and women both want to have sex with multiple partners. It's a desire we have. But also, we are just naturally a pair bonding species in that the human brain wants to go around and sleep with multiple people without, with no strings attached. Yeah. But we also, men and women, want to have a special relationship with just sort of one other person.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
We evolved to be a pair bonding species. So we're monogamous. And this goes back to very early parts of our evolutionary history. This is one interesting theory that I always like bringing up. That monogamy may have come about through this pair bonding idea, that early primates had this idea that they needed to protect their mate with gifts and food, and then they protect their offspring, and then the offspring eventually grow up and start protecting their parents. It started to build this idea of a family unit, and it started with monogamy. So humans separated from chimpanzees and bonobos, I believe that's the correct term, millions of years ago. And unlike our other closest relatives, chimpanzees, we became a pair bonding species. We are the great ape species that became pair bonding. And so this idea that men are supposed to be polygamous, no, we are a monogamous pair bonding species. And even in societies that allow for polygamy, the overwhelming majority of people break off into pairs. And sure, they have desires, they want to sleep around, but they still want to have a pair. They have a special relationship with just one other individual that they have kids with. That they grow a family with. And so it's actually more rare. It's actually more rare to find men who want to have like multiple families. Most just sort of want to have one family with one woman, but they also have desires that maybe they want to, have affairs and that kind of thing. But it's not the idea they want to pair bond with all these other women. They have these, these inappropriate desires about.
Yeah. The entire argument is weird. Just the argument from, hey, I have this, because I by nature have this desire.
Exactly.
Therefore, I mean, by nature, anyone who annoys me, I want to like beat his face in. That's like by nature, right? And that's like nice. I mean, if someone really annoys me, I like wanted to like torture him and murder his family in front of them. That's how I was by nature. Then it's like, oh, I can't do that, right? I can't do that. But notice, if I was supposed to go by, if I was playing by these rules, hey, that's the way go. Maybe want to smash everyone's face in, so I got to do it, and you're bad if you don't want your face smashed in by me, right? Like you're the bad one.
That sounded a little bit like Mike Tyson there when you said that.
That's but notice you're the bad one if you don't want your face smashed in, because I have that desire by nature, and under no circumstances should you be telling me to like control my desires.
That's exactly right. Just because something is naturally found in humans, and this just to clarify the earlier point, I would not say that that men and women equally have the desire to have multiple, to have different sex partners. Therefore, we should do that. That's just an incredibly dumb point. The point is, if you want to argue from that premise that men are naturally polygamous and women aren't, therefore men should be marrying multiple wives and women shouldn't, that's just plain wrong. It's unscientific. It is wrong. If men have such a thing, then this is not exclusive to men. Women have the same tendencies or desires as well. I know lots of people don't want to hear this, but as David just pointed out, just because something is naturally found in humans, just because a desire, a certain tendency is naturally found, that doesn't mean it is justified or that it should be, practiced. And if you disagree with it, then you're just bad, or a bad wife or a bad person. People have a lot of tendencies which they exercised throughout history. There are a lot of things, including pedophilia, which we recently debated, which is found as a mental disorder in people who have a desire which they can hardly fight, and they have to be treated. Just because it is now naturally there in their personality and they struggle with it, doesn't mean that it is justified because they're struggling with it. And poor guys, how could we disagree with it? How could we prevent it? I mean, it's just the whole argument that these Muslim apologists would use by saying this is natural to us, therefore it is okay and you should be quiet, is entirely nonsensical.
And by the way, notice that ties into another Andrew Tate gem when he was arguing that the reason a younger woman who's however he put it, 18 or something like that, is more attractive than a woman who's 25 or something like that, is because she's younger and less experienced. But notice, and guys want a younger, less experienced woman. He said specifically says, because I can leave my imprint on her. I can leave more of an imprint on her. But I pointed out way back when he said that would be the exact reasoning of someone like some of these da'is. But think about that. If by nature I would prefer a younger, less experienced partner, so that I'm leaving more of my imprint on her, and she's not messed up from some other relationship with some other guy, then you could say that by nature you should be going with 5-year-olds, 7-year-old, 9-year-olds, and so on. So they can make the exact same argument. Hey, by nature we prefer younger, less experienced girls, and therefore we should go extreme with this. And it's just my goodness, guys, once you start arguing based on human desires, you get some really creepy stuff, because people have some pretty freaking creepy desires, right? This is wild stuff.
Yeah, but if people feel something, that means it is justified and Allah wants it, and especially if it's men feeling something, then women should just shut up and let them do it. Yeah. That's how it is, man.
Not treated like that.
And then he's got the financial.
Oh yeah, he says men are and women are not created like that.
You just want your husband and you're happy with your husband. We are not created like that.
Yes.
Read a book, man.
And then
he actually said to me that he had never read books. So.
He's got the financial thing where he can reduce. He can, if she's being bad, he can take money away from her. This can be seen in this country as abuse. So if she has evidence of that, and she's got the state backing, if he tries to impose his masculinity or his Islamic, abilities on her, then she can respond in a malicious manner. Which is why I would say that if a woman shows her claws in that way, this is an option of secret, second, whatever you want to call it. I think it becomes a very legitimate option.
The language, the mentality. Wow.
Tries to impose his masculinity on her.
And she shows her claws. Then
but notice what he's talking about. What do you mean his masculinity? Saying, "Hey, I want multiple wives because I'm masculine." Notice they're always presupposing the idea of, if you want a bunch of sexual partners, you're manly, you're strong and manly, and if you don't, then you're weaker. You're weaker. You're not a real high class strong man.
Now I don't want to sound like I'm virtue signaling here, but I'm pretty sure that I can speak for a lot of men in saying that put aside the whole desirability or desiring other women aspect. I'm pretty sure lots of people here simply would not want to have more than one actual real married partner. I mean, it would be very idiotic.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I get what he's saying about just by nature. If you did not have anything to regulate your behavior, that, oh, you know, I want to have a bunch of sexual partners by nature. Yeah, I want to punch a bunch of people in the face by nature too. That's the part where self-control comes in. Yeah. But yes, as far as like, hey, here's a woman I want to spend my life with, that's different, right? That's okay. You know, biologically, I may have these desires. I'm willing to lay all that aside for this relationship with you. That's how important you are to me, that I'll cast aside everything else and commit to you. And they're basically saying, no, if you're
you're not manly enough.
Yeah, you don't need to honor your word. You don't need to honor your wives in that way. You don't need to care even slightly about your wife's feelings.
You're not a man. You're not a real man
if you care about any of that stuff. So it's in the Quran.
You see, you're not a man.
If you want, I got the one of the meta-analysis I can show to start showing how ridiculous a lot of this stuff is. But yeah, David, you're right. Humans are a pair bonding species. We don't want to pair bond with multiple. It creates problems because that's just not the way our psychology is. But there have been meta-analysis that were performed within the past few years. So this is one meta-analysis I cited, and they looked at women. They said, for example, women that were in polygamous marriages had more likely to develop somatization. That's where you constantly need to go to the doctor, but they can't figure out what's wrong. You just have like there's constant pain or something. It's, you know, it's a weird thing. But also obsession, compulsion, interpersonality sensitivity, depression, anxiety, hostility, phobic anxiety, paranoid ideation, psychoticism. And they say in the conclusion down here, you usually read it, they say that it has a lot to do with loss of identity in these types of relationships, because you've just become part of the community when you're one of these women. You sort of like lose more of yourself in that. And so it actually is, the mental issues are stemming from the polygamous relationships. They also talk about first wife syndrome. A lot of this stuff here, this idea that they were developing, like the first wife, of course, starts getting jealous of the younger wives, and she starts to developing like somatic issues. Now, when I brought this up to Muslims, they lose their mind because they read this sentence right here. And they say a higher self-esteem and life satisfaction among women in polygamous marriages and statistically superior family functioning among women in monogamous marriages were also found. So they go, well, the women say they're happier. They say they have more life satisfaction and higher self-esteem.
Well, notice if they're being conditioned to think, oh, you're a good wife if you're okay with this. And okay, even if I'm developing problems because of all this, but I'm going to announce to the world that yes, oh, this is great. I love it. I love sharing my husband because that's how I show I'm a good wife.
And you can't measure life satisfaction like you can see a mental disorder. Like you can see someone suffering, like an expert, like a psychiatrist can know when someone's suffering from, you know, major depressive disorder, anxiety, all these other related issues. How do you know when someone is actually having life satisfaction? Well, in these studies, you just have to ask them. And that's what they did. They filled out like this questionnaire and they say, are you satisfied with life? And they go, yes. So they basically just report they're being happy. So what Muslims, when they think this study works against my argument against polygamy, is they don't realize how little they understand how these studies are performed. Someone can get a psychiatric evaluation and you can learn they're suffering from all sorts of mental disorders. And often they report they're happy. Victims of Stockholm syndrome report they're happy. They're being protected by their abusers. Victims of groomers and predators often report, no, they weren't abusing me. They were always nice and they cared and they always did these things, even though they're being abused. Again, Anna Sattler's book Predators points this out. So yeah, they can report they're happy, but often humans are quite adaptable and they often adapt to the horrible situations they're in and try to make meaning out of it, try to justify it. This is just well known that humans are easily manipulated. They try to make meaning out of hard situations. So we would expect them to report. So you could say in some sense, it's not incompatible with the idea they would report they're happy, even though they're suffering from all these horrible mental issues that they're going through. I mean, there's just a lot in this. And the other meta-analysis I have, I can pull that up here. It's really weird because it was actually, they did 2 different meta-analysis in the same year, which is like gold. I mean, you don't get a lot of that typically. Typically you get like, you'll get like 1 meta-analysis, occasionally, but there were 2 done in like the same year. So like that was actually pretty good. So this one, polygamous impact on the polygamous marriage, women and children, a systematic review. If I just go down to the conclusions, they say polygamous wives actually reported low self-esteem in this meta-analysis. Also, children had lower achievement academics in the 2 studies that were included. They suffered from all sorts of issues as well. I mean, the discussion just goes in. Among women, depression was found to be significantly different between polygamous and monogamous marriages. Women and children in polygamous marriages have higher scores in somatization, obsessive compulsive, interpersonality sensitivity, anxiety, hostility, phobia, paranoia, psychoticism, and GSI compared to monogamous marriages. So when the Muslim men might come say, look, you know, like they have this desire to sleep with multiple women, but their wives have their desire that they are only committed to them. Who's got to give up on their desires? Why do these Muslim men who apparently have a right from Allah to sleep with multiple women, why do they have to give up their desire? Surely their wives have to give up their desires for them to be monogamous. Well, no. If the Muslim men give up their desires, it leads to overall better quality of life for everyone, their children, their wife. If the women give up their desire for their men to only be committed to them, what happens? It leads to all sorts of horrible problems, causes mental deterioration, psychiatric issues. The children suffer in these situations. So why wouldn't we not be called as men to give up a desire to sleep around and have multiple wives if they actually have that? That would be far better for society at large. And as we talked about earlier in this stream, polygamy leads to political instability. It causes society to break down because there's not enough women to go around for the men in lower class, because all the upper class men are greedy and lustful and they hog them all and they cry if they don't get multiple wives. So, I mean, there's just so much evidence that polygamy is harmful to women. It should be rejected by everyone.
I find it so ironic that if you ask these Muslim apologists, these guys, they will tell you immediately that women are, naturally, they tend to fight and compete with each other and all of that stuff. But at the same time, they want to propose a society where men have multiple wives who constantly, are competing with each other over one man. And then they also talk about stability at the same time. It's just, it doesn't make any sense if you put it all together.
Yeah, this is the same thing we see over and over and over again from the beginnings of Islam. But I mean, you could think about it in terms of like Islamic apologetics. We talked about this a million times before. They can read the entire Bible, and they will only fixate on the things that they think agree with them. So they can go to a chapter, read verse 1, contradicts Islam. Oh, no good. Read verse 2, contradicts Islam. Get to verse 18. Oh, here's something we can twist into a prophecy about Muhammad. You see, that's as good as gold. And it's like their entire methodology is just conditioning and training themselves to see only what is convenient to them at some given moment. And so that's why you could put any of these studies in front of it. They will only see what only confirms their desires and what they want in life. That's all.
Well, the problem is all of these studies were funded by the West, by the evil that wants to suppress the truthful ideas.
If these are all like part of a conspiracy, which I'm sure they would say, why did the first meta-analysis willingly report that women were filling out their life satisfaction questionnaire and saying they're happy? Surely that should have been hidden from, they're trying to hide this thing. I mean, like, this whole nonsense about conspiracy. If you actually read the studies, you'll always find outlier metrics. I mean,
well, the evil imperialist, anti-Islamic, satanic, Zionist American West that is in charge of all of these studies wants to make sure that they also include a few things that disagree with them, just so you believe them more. But they are in charge and all of that nonsense. Yeah, that's basically what Daniel Haqiqatjou said to you in response to all your studies, right?
Oh yeah, it's all part of the evil conspiracy to prevent them from raping children. I mean, like, first of all, even though he is, even though he's right that Western powers have done horrible things, you just can't do this, like, this association fallacy. Just because Western powers have done bad things, that doesn't mean everything they endorse or argue for is necessarily bad.
Excuse me, of course it is a bad. West automatically means bad. So if the West endorses something, that means it is bad.
We should start getting them to realize that the West tells them to brush their teeth and argues everyone should have to brush their teeth. And then we'll see Muslim men for like next year or so, like have all these horrible teeth. And like, well, the West told me to brush my teeth. Therefore I shouldn't. Yeah.
You will see Daniel Haqiqatjou say only the Western loving bootlickers say that we should brush our teeth. Real Muslims stand with the truth and oppose such atrocious Western ideas. Only the bootlickers will support such an idea. Oh boy.
Yeah, matter of fact, that's the entire approach of Daniel and his followers. Is anytime you make any argument against Islam, they just say, "Oh, you're siding with the Western liberal conspiracy and agenda." Yep. So yeah, now you're right. You guys are right. You should just find anytime Daniel agrees with anyone else and say, "You see, he's just copying the Western liberal agenda conspiracy. He's just copying it. Muslims are copying it all."
And hold that thought. I want to bring up one thing just to show to everyone that we are absolutely not exaggerating. This just reminds me of something that Daniel posted just today, a few hours ago, in response to people calling him out because, remember, he was mocking little children who were crying because they cannot go to school. In response to all of that, he posted this. He said, "Yes, I proudly and openly mock the crocodile tears of women," little girls who want to go to school, women, who are used to emotionally manipulate populations into supporting Western invasions, sanctions, and bombing of the Muslim world. That makes me a misogynist, but if you support these actors and the Western wars their fake tears are supposed to justify, wars that lead to murder and displacement of millions of Muslim women, then somehow you're a brave defender of women. So everything we just said about him, what he does, absolutely not an exaggeration and completely on point. In response to people calling him out because he's mocking little girls who want to go to school, he says, "Oh, of course I will mock women who are used by the West to invade Muslim countries." And exactly what we just said.
Yeah, notice the reasoning. It's, hey, I'm making fun of these little girls for wanting to go to school and actually learn to, read and so on. And you Westerners are complaining that these little girls can no longer go to school anymore, but you're only complaining because it's propaganda that's being used to invade Muslim countries. And so either shut your mouth up. I mean, shut your mouth about little girls not being allowed to go to school, or you're calling for genocide in Muslim countries and for pointless wars. So it's one of the other. That's always his thinking. It's always like some absurd extreme. You have to accept one absurd extreme, or you're advocating for the other absurd extreme. And that's like
did the same thing when Destiny posted cartoons about Muhammad. Daniel's first reaction to this was, "You see, this is what he does, and if they were in charge, they would genocide us Muslims." That's how he responded to the issue, to Destiny posting memes.
Yeah, Destiny. If Destiny had a button that would annihilate all of Muslims, he would push it, as you can see from him posting this cartoon.
So ridiculous, man. It's absolutely crazy.
In a malicious manner, which is why I would say that if a woman shows her claws in that way, this is an option, a secret second, whatever you want to call it. I think it becomes a very legitimate option.
I'm sure. Why do we always see? I maybe it's just me, but I constantly see Muslim men just talking so bad about women. Like, they got claws, they can invade your dreams. Apparently, let's make fun of them because they want to get an education. The Daniel Haqiqatjou talking on his channel about like if all men disappeared, women would go extinct. They wouldn't be able to raise the boys and the girls to be, it would be impossible because they just can't take care of themselves.
Oh, I want to tell you one thing to add to all of that. Daniel Haqiqatjou's idea is also, if you allow women's education, then this will inevitably lead to women becoming free and creating online pornographic content. I'm not kidding. He actually said that.
It's the exact same thing. It's either go with my extreme, keep little girls locked up, get them married off when they're super young, never allow them to be educated at all, or they're going to work for Andrew Tate and do online porn, even though Andrew Tate is our hero in the Muslim world. You don't want your daughters doing that. You want other people's daughters doing that.
Yeah. That's a huge slippery slope, and he does it all the time. All the time. Go on and comment some more stuff. I'm going to find a few things here. Since Mike
Yeah,
just asked why Muslims often talk so badly about women, I would like to find a few things about women that Muhammad said.
It's just weird to me. Like, I know that there are Christians that talk bad about women. I know there are atheists that talk bad about women. But I mean, like, maybe it's just lately I've just been seeing so much. And this thing we just watched with them sitting in front of these women and saying, no, we can lie to you. Your desires don't matter. What's important to you doesn't matter. What matters is what we want. And we just want to sleep around with whoever we want. It's like, do you not like realize the harm this is causing? As the research I cited shows, you're going to cause severe mental deterioration in these women. Should that not be more important than you just wanting to bang a bunch of women who are also going to suffer from mental issues because you're bringing them into the problem? I mean, like, do you not care? Like, I don't understand where this desire comes from to set aside care for the women and only care about what the men desire. This just is a very weird thing to me. I don't understand. I know there are probably many Muslim men out there that would be disgusted by this behavior. I'd like to see more of them coming forward and standing with, sane people condemning this behavior.
Yeah. So here are a few things to mention if you want to know more about why Muslims think this way. Here is one example. Muhammad says, the Prophet said, isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that of a man? The women said, yes. He said, this is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind.
Amen.
So women are less intelligent.
Shut up, David.
Yeah. Here's another example. I looked at paradise. The Prophet said, I looked at paradise and saw that the majority of its residents were the poor. And I looked at hell and I saw that the majority of its residents were women.
Well, if all the women are in hell, how do they have multiple wives in heaven?
Allah creates new wives for them.
Of course.
So,
it's just magic, yeah.
Yeah. This is a very popular hadith, by the way. I heard this. I mean, lots of Muslims hear this a lot of times.
Yeah, Bukhari. Yeah.
Hey, yo, AP, I just sent you a link to a hadith that hijab actually cites. I sent it to your phone.
You guys gotta drop it in the private chat. Like, there's a private chat right there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I have it on my. I guess I could look it up over here. I got two. I got a laptop and a computer open. The private chat is on my computer.
Yeah, I think I got it. I got it. Here it is.
There we go.
You're such a diva.
So hijab actually cites this. It is not, the Messenger of Allah said, it is not lawful to lie except in three cases. Something a man tells his wife to please her, to lie during war, and to lie in order to bring peace between the people. What's creepy is there can be all sorts of, you can incorporate all sorts of additional ideas about lying into these concepts, like to lie during war. Well, they view themselves as at war with people like us here, right? There's this ongoing battle. And that's why they think it's okay to lie to us. And that's why you will never be in an exchange with Muhammad Hijab where he is not, or Ali Dawa, where they are not trying to actively deceive you in some way.
He openly admitted to me. I mentioned this in my long video about him. He openly admitted to me when he challenged me to a debate, and I accepted it. And I said it's going to be an online debate, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then in the end, he was like, "Okay, so send me your location. I will come there, and we will debate in person." I was like, "What are you talking about? We already agreed that it would be online." Yeah. And he said, "Well, but we didn't condition it." And later, when I talked to him about this further, he admitted to me directly that since he did not make a written agreement with me, he was not bound by anything, so he could easily change his commitment.
And even if he made a written agreement, he could change that as well, because he does not believe that he has to be honest in a state with people that he's at war with. But notice something the man tells his wife to please her. Now you could think of this in a fairly harmless, like the example that they'll use. They use it in one of the sources, at least the commentary or something like that. Like if your wife cooks something and you say, "Oh, that's good," even though you don't like it. Oh, okay, you're just being nice to your wife. But you could also apply. Well, it's going to upset my wife if I tell her I'm not banging these additional women and girls out there, and therefore, since I know this would upset her if she knew what I was doing on the side, I'm going to lie to her about it, because that's to keep her happy. Because I know that she, like the 4 women they had in line there, all of them said that they did not want their husbands to have some additional wife. And so, okay, so if your wife is like one of these women, then in order to please her, you lie about your secret second wife or third wife or fourth.
Yeah, here's my favorite hadith about women. I absolutely love this. It says, Jabir reported that Allah's messenger saw a woman, and so he came to his wife Zainab as she was tanning a leather and had sexual intercourse with her. He then went to his companions and told them, the woman advances and retires in the shape of a devil. So when one of you sees a woman, he should come to his wife, for that will repel what he feels in his heart. So if you don't understand what's happening here, he's walking outside and he comes across a woman, and then he thinks, oh, I want to have sex with that woman. I want to bang that woman. And then he goes home to one of his wives. As she's tanning leather, she's working, he grabs her and has sex with her. And then he's so relieved and goes outside and tells his Muslim followers, women come in the shape of a devil. So if you see a woman outside, and you get really aroused, go home to your wife and have sex with her immediately, because women are like a devil. Yeah.
And by the way, notice, because and I know from experience, when you quote this to a Muslim, he'll say, oh, well, what's wrong with, if your desires are aroused, going to your wife? That's not the point. This is your pattern of conduct. The ideal man in your religion had so little self-control that if he's just walking down the street and he walks by an attractive woman, he has to, oh my goodness, oh, I have to run home. And look, people have pointed this out. People from other countries, they're like, do you know how disgusting it is when someone is tanning leather? They're like, do you know the disgusting smell in an area where you're tanning leather? Everything would have been disgusting to her. She would have smelled awful. And Muhammad just, I have to go home and bone her. I have no self-control. And it's like, guys, everyone who's watching, Muslim, non-Muslim, whoever, just think how many women you pass by as you're going about your daily business. The supreme pattern of conduct in Islam had so little self-control that if he simply passed an attractive woman on the street, he was overcome with, I have to get to a woman right now or I'm just going to explode. And like, this is again, the ideal pattern of conduct for you.
Yeah. Whenever I see a woman, I feel this uncontrollable urge. I feel completely, messed up inside. I immediately go home. I can't interact with a woman for more than a few seconds. I immediately have to go to my wife and have sex. That's usually how it goes. Yeah. That's what.
Okay. Hey, we should make a video about this where like a guy Muhammad walks outside his door, sees a woman, and he runs home and has that, and then he walks outside again, and then runs
home. Evil omen was mentioned before the Prophet. The Prophet said, if there is evil omen in anything, it is in the house, the woman, and the horse. Yeah. And so on. The Prophet Muhammad said some very nice things about women. So it's no surprise that Muslim men talk so nicely about women. And of course, if a woman disobeys you, the Quran says in chapter 4, verse 34, that men are in charge of women. And if the woman... If he fears arrogance, then he may advise her or separate beds and finally beat her so that she becomes obedient again.
Yeah, I remember in all my research on Daniel from our debate, I came across him defending this. And if I was going to steel man what he said, he was like, it's like a last ditch thing. Like it's like the last resort kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And like, he compared it to an employer who's got a disgruntled employee that he fires, and the disgruntled employee doesn't want to leave the premise. So the employer has to call the police. The employee doesn't want to go with the police. So they eventually have to put him in handcuffs and take him out kind of thing. And he says, like, it's kind of like that. I mean, the husband, you do everything you possibly can. And then he makes this lame excuse, like, wouldn't you want the husband who cares so much about his wife to really be in charge of this? Not the state, who is going to abuse and throw her in prison. Who do you really want in charge? And all I can think about is like, that is the dumbest argument ever, because typically in couples like this, there's so many emotions involved. There's all this he said, she said kind of stuff. Wouldn't you want a neutral party to come in and go, all right, let's get to the facts here. What do you have to say? This is why you go before a judge in these kind of things. You wouldn't just want the husband who's emotionally involved with this woman, this disgruntled woman who's fighting back for whatever reason she may have, to be the one who's just going to have the final say. It makes far more sense when you have two adults to go before a neutral party to solve these issues. So, I mean, he's trying to put it in a good light, and all I can think about is listening to him explain this, going, this is horrible because you're not going to have a neutral judge involved. You should want a neutral party to solve this issue.
Yeah. But what he thinks is that if two people are fighting, then they should just, beat each other and fight it out, and then solve the matter, instead of getting the iron fist of the state involved, which would only oppress both of you. That's his logic here. I don't understand. The guy is supposed to be a Harvard graduate, and
he's a Harvard graduate that denies the moon landing. So remember that.
And also went to Tufts, I think. And he comes with such horrible, absolutely horribly idiotic logic, such terrible arguments that a lot of much less educated and much less lucky people would laugh at it and think, what in the world are you talking about? That makes no sense at all. And he comes with this. He actually says, if employers have the right to apply force against disgruntled employees who don't want to leave, and if the state can jail and imprison women who commit crimes, then what is so bad about husbands beating their wives? I mean, are you dumb, man? I cannot think of a different word. I mean, this is just so stupid.
Well, it's not even that like disgruntled employees are being beat. Like, the cops aren't coming and punching them or hitting them. They're just like saying, all right, we're going to put you in handcuffs and take you out. Like, sure, you may have to wrestle with him if he's super disgruntled. And to steal man Daniel, he does say that any sort of wife hitting would be exceptionally rare. Like, it would be like the last resort, like in the employer example. But still, you want a neutral party to be in this. I would, a police officer is going to have a much better case at handling this than a disgruntled husband who's been fighting with his wife for series and series of arguments.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He seems to think of it in like this ideal sense, right? Like, okay, in a perfectly functioning marriage, then the husband as the last resort, the final and last resort after he has examined all possible recourses and so on, then reluctantly beats his wife, and not just, hey, you messed up my food, pow, right in the face, right? I mean, he's not thinking of like how it is in real life. I mean, you can look up the studies on in Saudi Arabia. They call it the culture of the extension cord, just because that is the popular form of beating your wife. You grab an extension cord and just start beating her with it and so on. But those are the more realistic scenarios of like guys are just hotheads and they turn their wives into punching bags and so on. And the Islam says it's none of your business what a guy does when his wife is out of line. All the Quran says is you have to simply fear that your wife is going to somehow be arrogant or rebellious against you or something like that. That's enough. That's enough of a request. I think that you're being rebellious. That's enough justification to beat her until her skin turns green.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the ideal state, and he does this a lot, where he constantly compares like his ideal Islamic state with realistic Western societies, and that's just not a fair comparison. He really should be comparing realistic Islamic societies with realistic liberal societies or Western societies or Christian societies.
You're expecting way too much of him.
Oh yeah, or idealistic. Like, why doesn't he ever compare idealistic liberalism or idealistic Christian societies with idealistic Islamic societies? It's always, he does a lot of the same thing I think communists do. They compare their ideal communist state with like the current capitalist state, and that's not a fair comparison. You got to compare ideal states or realistic states.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you don't have to go far to compare the realistic Islamic states with the realistic Western states. Which direction are people moving? Which direction are Muslims moving? Muslims prefer a realistic Western state to a realistic Islamic state, hands down.
Okay, what you're getting wrong is, according to Daniel Haqiqatjou, those Muslims are weak, bootlickers who were brainwashed by the West.
Notice the reasoning would be, because notice Muslims flee realistic Islamic states to get to realistic Western states. They prefer those hands down. But then when they get here and they start saying, hey, we need to Islamicize everything. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys all fled states that were these hellholes that you wanted to get away from, and you think it's better over here. And then the response is, but those aren't correct. They're not doing Islam correctly. So let's make the ideal Islamic state over here. Let's make Islam how it's supposed to be over here. It never works in practice, but somehow over here we can make it work in practice. And it's like, no, what you would end up if you got your way, you would make it another realistic Islamic hellhole.
That's exactly how communists argue. That's actually a very good comparison by Michael earlier.
Yeah, and there was a paper by Roland to Salem that I've cited before, where he compared Protestant, Catholic, and Islamic societies and side by side, and he looked for things like political stability, citizen empowerment, political transformation, voice and accountability in government. And what he found was that in Catholic and Protestant societies, it positively correlated with more political stability, voice and accountability, citizen empowerment, and then did not correlate in any of the Islamic ones. None of the measures correlated with Islamic societies. And he said it was actually pointing in the opposite direction. It was just in the non-significant range. But still, it was a slight negative correlation. So, yeah, this actually manifests in reality. It's been documented.
Yeah.
The study is the role of Protestant in democratic consolidation among traditional states by Roland to Salem.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're pretty much done with the video that we were watching. There's just Hatun here speaking with her strong Turkish accent.
Hatun!
Hey, IP, just so you know, AP hates anyone with a Turkish accent. He does. Anytime he's like, so-and-so has a Turkish accent.
But yeah, so there's just
similar feelings with me. It was disgusting to hear such a video where young generation of ideology simply talking about you can have the second wife.
I don't understand how you think, David, Turkish accent and Russian accent sound the same. There's a clear difference.
Not from her, from those other dudes who were like, those guys were like, Ali Dawa, are you ready to answer questions as we all drink the Russian vodka here, right? That's how those...
Anyway, I guess we're done with this one, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, and now we can come to my favorite section, Super Chats. Super Chats. The man said, sorry, kind of unrelated. Recently saw, okay, so if it's unrelated, I'm not reading it. Just kidding. Recently saw the Capturing Christianity stream.
Yeah.
With David saying Surah 4:157 doesn't mean Jesus was never crucified. What do IP and AP think of this?
Let me qualify that. I'm not saying that that's not what the surah means. I'm saying that if you read Surah 4:157 in the context of other Quran verses, which can give you a very, very different understanding, then it starts to look like maybe it doesn't. So verses like Surah 8 verse 17 and so on. If you read 4:157 immediately after reading Surah 3:55, 8:17, and so on, a bunch of other verses that give you a different understanding, you can interpret it that way. So it's basically you can allow the Quran to interpret the Quran, and the overarching idea here would be you only have one verse to go on. So if you can interpret that one verse in multiple different ways, in light of other things you're reading, yes, you can read that verse in light of later Muslim commentary. If you read it in light of later Sunni Islamic commentaries, you'd go with substitution theory, because that's what those commentaries say, even though they contradict each other and don't have any sort of authoritative content to them. Or you could just read the verse on its own, not interpret it in light of anything else. You don't get substitution theory, but if you're just reading it, you would think it's somehow denying Jesus' crucifixion and death. That's if you just read the verse. But if you read it in light of other Quran verses, which say things like, you know, it's not you who killed these people in battle. It was Allah using you as an instrument. So you didn't kill the guy you just stabbed in the throat with a sword. You didn't kill him. Allah did it through you. Then you can read this. You can read 4:157 as saying the Jews didn't really do it. It was Allah using them to do something else. So the point is, the verse is hopelessly unclear. It is open to multiple different ways of interpreting it. And that I don't see a way around. But yeah, it's one verse. But yeah, what do you guys think?
That's true. So my stance on this, we recently talked about this when we were live on David's channel. My stance would still be that you can understand it within a different context, in a different way, and you could say it doesn't deny the crucifixion, but as I see it, what happened there is just that the Quran gets something wrong and actually really denies the crucifixion based on heretical pre-Islamic Christian ideas like
Gnostic texts,
Gnostic texts, heresies within Arabia that claim that Jesus was not really crucified, but he was only crucified. He was replaced. There was a substitution, or it was just an illusion. And Islam ignorantly adopts this idea of substitution or illusion from those Christians without knowing what it actually does, because those Christians believe that Jesus is God and cannot die, which is why he's substituted or it's an illusion. Islam adopts this idea without knowing why they believe such a thing, and then later tries to somehow make sense of it. And later Muslim apologists try to make sense of it, Muslim scholars try to make sense of it, and then create alternative stories of it. But I think it's just a giant mess coming out of ignorance still.
Yeah, and just let me add real quick. You Muslims who are watching, saying that Surah 4 verse 157 may not actually be denying the crucifixion. That's to help you, right? That's to help you. As AP just pointed out, if Surah 4 verse 157 is saying what most Muslims think it says, then it is very clear to us, to non-Muslims who are familiar with the Gnostic and Docetist teachings, that the author of the Quran was stealing ideas from heretical Christian weirdos who were further away from Islam than Christians are, right? These guys were further away from Islam. And if 4:157 means what you think it means, then it's clear to us there's no way the Quran is from God, because you're stealing weird ideas from really, really weird groups. So it's actually to your benefit. It's to your benefit to say, actually, the Quran isn't denying the crucifixion of Jesus. It's not using the later commentators stole these Gnostic and Docetist ideas in their interpretation of the verse, but the verse I'm saying what you should be saying. The verse should be interpreted in light of other Quran verses like 8:17. You should be interpreted that way. And that way we don't end up with this absurd, idiotic plagiarism of weird sources.
Do you have 24 hours to think about this and get back to us? Yeah. Go ahead, IP.
No, I was going to say, denying the crucifixion of Jesus is just, it's historically untenable in so many ways. I mean, I remember John Dominic Crossan saying, like, it's just one of the most surest things we know about history, that Jesus was crucified. He was writing, like, even if we didn't have any Christian writings, we would know that there was some guy named Jesus who started a religious movement and he was crucified. It's just one of the surest facts of history.
Yeah, that's also what Bart Ehrman said in response to Muslims like Mohammed Hijab saying that Jesus was not crucified, and he was just no, he was not having it, not having it at all. In fact, there's this very funny video that I remember of Bart Ehrman when he interacted with Muslim apologists who asked him questions about these things, which I still find incredibly funny. Let's quickly look at that here.
What does it mean to be unreliable?
Muslims believe in Jesus Christ. There's a lot of interest in the community, and many Muslims feel that your conclusions or historical conclusions of who Jesus Christ is more commensurate with the Muslim idea than it is with the Christian one.
I wouldn't say that they line up well with the Muslim view. I really do think Jesus was crucified and that he really was dead and buried. I'm not interested in whether Jesus was the Son of God, because I don't think there's a God. And so
my understanding is that your conclusion is that Jesus Christ was a messianic prophet.
I think he thought that he was a son of God in the sense that he was specially chosen by God. I think Jesus really did think he was going to be the Messiah, the future king of Israel. I mean, that is, after all, why they crucified him. I think that that's historically right. You know, I think that all of these gospel authors, I think all of them think that in some sense, Jesus is God. If you think that the Bible cannot have any mistakes in it, if you're shown a mistake, then you just refuse to admit it's a mistake. You think either it can be reconciled in some way, or that there's something we just don't understand about it, or, you know, we have, and in the Quran.
Okay, anyway, in case you're wondering, Mike, why he's laughing so much, is because I put it together and cut it that way.
Yeah. Well, I love I get this crap. I saw Zakir Naik argue, like, you know, I love Jesus more than Christians because Jesus always prayed on his face, and I always pray on my face, and I'm circumcised. Jesus was circumcised. I'm like Mark 11, for example, talks about, Jesus says, like, when you pray standing, say ... It's like, Jesus did not teach you got to pray a certain way. I mean, he taught you got to be baptized, you got to take communion, you got to pray, but you don't have to pray in a certain way. So it's like, I don't know where these guys get this idea that the Jesus of the Gospels is more like the Jesus in the Quran. That's just not the case.
That's what we talked about earlier, because in John you even see, and Jesus looked up to heaven and said, right? So he's praying, looking up to heaven. But it's what we said before. They will read an entire text and only fixate on the things. Oh, look, here's a scene where Jesus bowed down. You see, that's like Islam. But then they'll leave out what he said, and he immediately says, Father. Right? Yeah. even in the Lord's Prayer, our Father, right? According to the Quran, Allah is a father to no one, not in any sense. And so it's just horrible. I mean, they can literally quote a verse without finishing the verse, because if they finish the verse, it will contradict Islam. So they have to only like quote the first part of the verse and say, you say this supports Islam. Okay, finish the verse, it destroys Islam. Oh, the second part of the verse is corrupt, right? It's just this insane stuff.
It's funny you bring this up. Speaking of the different senses in which father could be applied or children could be applied, the Quran even reprimands Jews and Christians for referring to themselves as children of God, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. That one gamer said, but IP, what color is your Bugatti? Chololo, just kidding. Love the content. God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that one gamer, you gotta bother Tim Pool again, because this guy sent a super chat into Tim Pool about having me come on Tim Pool's podcast. So really appreciated that one gamer. Still haven't heard anything yet though. I did try reaching out to them the only way I knew how, but yeah, it'd be awesome to get on Tim Pool.
Oh, hey, IP, I don't know if you saw it, but I recently saw a Tim Pool clip where he was sitting down with his little group, and he just goes, do you think society would be better if everyone just converted to Christianity? And everyone there was like, yep, given the way things are going, yep,
Well, I mean, like, you know, this is actually something to talk about, because Daniel always says, like Daniel Haqiqatjou says, like, liberalism is destroying religion. He doesn't realize that liberalism, modern secular liberalism, is as Charles Taylor says, it's a corruption of values they got in Christianity. So some people were like, we want a secular society with some of the values we get from Christianity, we're going to call it that. So when he's constantly like in debates with you, like, you know, saying like, you've abandoned your Christian values. No, modern society, as scholars like Tom Holland, Rodney Stark, Robert Woodbury will point out, modern society came out of a Christian culture. It has gone in ways that is far more secular. It has gone in ways that I would disagree with in a lot of ways, but it still has this Christian roots to it that it came out of. And so, yeah, it's a lot of the values you see that in society that he argues against, they came out of Christianity. Christianity is not diet Islam. It's vehemently opposed to a lot of the values we see in Islam. There is overlap, sure, but Christianity is more like a revolutionary idea. It's about, it came out of this idea, like in the Roman Empire, we're going to destroy and take down systems and institutions that don't prize care, that don't prize fairness and equality, and even liberty for that matter. And they need to be destroyed and be replaced with ones that do prize those type of things. And so, yeah, this is why we got to where we are today in a lot of ways.
Chesterton said that Western society is, he called it, he said, Christian values.
No, he froze.
Yeah. Who froze?
He was going to
You
say something.
froze.
He was going to
You
say
were
something useless.
He was
That's
about
why
to say
I'm
the
saying-
quote and you froze.
He said, yeah, Chesterton called it Western society Christian values gone mad. So the idea is you used to have this foundation. Here's why we believe these things, and this leads to all these certain values out here. And then you can say, hey, let's throw out the basis for these things. And now you've just got these sort of values. But Chesterton's point was like now they're detached from each other and they become like they're idols in themselves. And so Daniel sees it. He says, oh, you're saying the same thing that the civilization that Christianity influenced said. Therefore, you're just stealing the idea from this non-Christian thing. And you're just siding with them, not realizing, hey, these things are connected and we can agree on a lot of the same things because we had sort of a common background.
Yep.
That we can agree on certain things. So you can have an atheist, a Jew, a Christian, even a Muslim who's been influenced by the same system, and we can all be on the same page about certain things. And if you come along and say something wildly different, and we all say, "Whoa, that's horrifying," you say, "You're all just copying that thing." No, where you get it's like stupid
AP,
thinking.
Yeah, you should reach out to the historian Tom Holland because he's written books on Christianity and Islam. And he compares it'd be an interesting conversation, with him, you being an ex-Muslim and he being an atheist historian who's written on both of them.
I'm aware of him. I never thought about reaching out. I've not read one of his books yet. I got one of his books about Christianity and Islam. I haven't read it yet.
That's why you're still an atheist.
Yeah, probably.
You read one of Tom Holland's book, you're going to be a Christian overnight, buddy.
Yeah, most likely, yeah. David with an AP, when will you be at Timcast?
Hey, you just brought up Timcast.
That's funny. This is funny.
I have no desire to go on anyone's stuff at all. I basically do stuff with like my friends because I don't know. I choose to interact with people I get along with.
I don't like Tim Pool, honestly. I think he's kind of an idiot, and
good way to get it. Good way to get on the show, AP. Good way.
You ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is just what I'm saying. It's not what Mike here is thinking. So he should still be invited to the show. No, I don't agree with much of stuff that he says. I think he does a lot of fallacious blanket statement judgment of the other side of the political spectrum and stuff like that. I just don't like it. Same thing on the opposite side of the political spectrum. Lots of speakers do the same very thing, and I don't really like that style.
AP is just mad because Tim Pool believes in God. AP doesn't want to interact with him because he believes in God.
Nah. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I would ever do there if I went there.
You'd get humiliated. That's what.
I wouldn't go on and talk about politics because I don't want to do that. It was a possibility of me coming on his Culture Wars podcast. We just talk about culture and religion and that kind of thing, and that's what I would want to talk about.
Yeah. The man said, "What's the most plausible argument for Islam? Everybody hates Islam, therefore it's true."
That's I've seen them make that argument.
I know they do. I'm not making it up. That's what they do all the time. What is your answer, David? What is your answer, IP?
It's a really weird situation. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you do need like this generic, watered down idea of, hey, don't you believe in submission to God? Right? Don't you believe in submission to God? Well, Islam is just a religion of submission to God. And you kind of have to keep it at that level. If you're just saying, hey, there's a creator and you need to submit to him, and Islam is the religion of submission to him, something like that. But it's the moment you start going to the rest of Islam, it turns into a giant mess. So I think it's like you'd have to go with a loosely Quran only type Islam and just say, hey, there's a creator. Look at the world. There's obviously a creator. Now you want to submit to God. Something like that. But I mean, the moment you get into any specific arguments for a more robust version of Islam, it starts falling apart. And when does it not rely on deception? I mean, if you're saying, hey, Muhammad's in the Bible, when according to the Bible, Muhammad is like the paradigm example of what a false prophet would be. Like, how do you defend that with a straight face? How do you say there's only one Quran been perfectly preserved right down to the letter from the time of Muhammad? Everything involves lies. Like, it's all lies. So that kind of tells you something about the religion and what it's got going for it, when every argument that's used to defend it beyond a kind of mere theism ends in, requires deception in order to even make the case.
Yeah, I want to add about the Tim Pool thing earlier. People are making comments about it now, but I find it very funny. There was this moment just years ago where he was basically fear mongering and saying, "Oh no, guys, it's about to go really, really bad. Society is cracking. There's going to be a civil war soon if things are not fixed." And I see that sentiment whenever I look at Tim Pool.
Look at AP. This guy, if we don't stop Islam, it's going to destroy society and lead to wars and stuff. He's the same exact. He's just using different ingredients, same recipe, different ingredients. And then, of course, he hates everyone who he's competing with at the bake-off. Come on.
I don't even think
stop hating on everyone who's just more popular than you.
I think Islam is way too stupid to put Western society in danger. I think
I don't think Islam, like an Islamic State, will ever really threaten the West again. I think it has everything to do with the United States. People don't realize the United States is very powerful because of our geography alone. Geography makes the U.S. OP. We have two things among many other edges, but two big edges are the Mississippi chain of rivers. It's the longest network of rivers that's steady flowing. It essentially turns cities like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh into port cities like on the ocean, because they have these rivers you can float goods up and down quite easily all the way to the coast. It's just a natural highway system that runs through the main continental U.S. But right through this big river system, you have the Great Plains, where it's the largest arable land anywhere on earth for growing food. So you can grow enough food in the Great Plains to feed 1 billion people. And you got this water highway system that runs right through it for easily transporting goods in and out. Trade is what makes nations powerful. The United States is just the geography allows us to just be massively overpowered in trade and transporting goods. No nation will ever compete with us on this because we can just grow wealth so much faster. I mean, people were about rising China. China's got nothing compared to this. It's United States geography just makes us overpowered. And that's not even including the oil, the natural gas reserves, the importance of Anchorage, Alaska in terms of trade, the unique soil on the California coast, the indents like the Chesapeake Bay, the San Francisco Bay, the network of barrier islands around the East Coast. It also makes for transporting goods easier. The U.S. is just massively overpowered in terms of geography.
Hey, AP, you waiting for a Donald Trump 2024 sign to come up behind IP here?
Oh, come on. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
America, we got it all. We got all we got the rivers. Everyone's jealous of our rivers. Have you seen our rivers? We got the best rivers. I invented the rivers. I'm the one who made the rivers here. Everyone knows that. That's why I'm the best ever. So I guess what IP is saying here is if the United States converted to Islam, then Islam would take over the world.
Oh yeah,
it would be very, very powerful nation. Yes, regardless of who controls this landmass, it'd be super powerful.
Absolutely.
I have a beard. He doesn't.
I don't understand what this guy is talking about. Yeah. Anyway,
it's just a good vibration. Yeah. You guys are too young for that. But that's Marky Mark back before he was Mark Wahlberg.
Oh really? That's fine.
Yeah, he was a rapper.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Every time I hear that, I laugh. Every time I hear that, yeah.
I just remember him from the Ted movies, which I found funny at some point in time. And I already got that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, recently found out The Nun was Apocrypha too.
The Nun?
The Nun?
I don't know if he's talking about in Christianity or the nun as in like the nun, the whale.
Oh, the nun? Oh.
Yeah, the nun with the whale and that sits at the bottom of everything, fish or whale.
Okay, so when you say apocrypha, are you talking about how that is Abrahamic apocrypha, or are you talking about?
I don't know what this person's talking about. I don't know if he's talking about a nun, like you would see a nun in a convent or something like that, and he's saying that's apocryphal, or if he's saying that in the Quran, when it refers to the nun.
Okay, but even if it's the nun, even if it's the Quranic nun, I'm not exactly sure what the person here is intending, because the nun.
The whale. He says in the comment section. He says the whale.
Okay, the whale comes from apparently barely reliable hadith. I would say, I want to be very fair here, and I would say it is not considered a very reliable source of hadith on what Muhammad actually believed and actually preached. There are some traditions, some weak traditions, and some interpretations and biographies which mention that that the Muslims believed in a whale that carries the world on its back. It is just impossible for us to verify if that whole idea is authentic or not, but it seems plausible within the narrative of the Quran when it says that Allah, created the earth and then put mountains on it to prevent it from shaking, and and it starts a whole chapter with by the nun and the pen and stuff like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What are you going to say? You are dying to say something.
No, I agree. I mean, you have a bunch of commentaries that supposedly go back to companions of Muhammad saying that this nun refers to this fish or whale, that everything is everything's on its back, and so that's what happens. This thing gets agitated, starts flopping around. That's where earthquakes come from. That's why you need the mountains put down like tent pegs to hold everything nice and steady. So you do get this ridiculous picture. But yes, once you understand that these guys were making up connections that supposedly go back to Muhammad's companions for justification for their later ideas, everything's in question. You don't know what actually goes back to Muhammad. So entirely plausible. Muhammad did believe idiotic nonsense like that. But Muslims also made up tons of stuff. So hard to call.
Yeah, hard to call. I brought this up once in my response to Muhammad Hijab because he was kind of going to secondary sources and claiming that the early Muslims knew the earth was round, and I basically argued. I said, if you want to take these unreliable secondary sources cited by people later that early Muslims believed the earth was round, then how about I go back and take some other sources? Which
Ibn Abbas said the seven earths are all flat.
Yeah. How about I go back and pick these sources which say a lot of terrible things? Yeah. Sorry, I just did that. When you take 4157 and you juxtapose it with the fact that Islam is borrowing from Apocrypha, it makes far more sense that it is arguing substitution. Yeah, that's how I see it. That's basically how I see it.
Yeah. With me, again, this is why I don't say that Surah 4157 is saying this or that. It's for you Muslims. If you claim that it's supporting substitution, then these Gnostic and Docetist ideas are entering Islam at the level of the Quran, and you got problems. Yeah. If you want to say no, the ideas entered at the level of the commentaries, and it's not actually in the Quran, then you don't have that. You don't have that as a problem for the Quran. You have it for later commentators, and so you have the fact that your later commentators are distorting everything because they're liars. So take your pick.
Yeah, what makes it additionally problematic is that the Quran also repeats a lot of stories that it takes from later heretical Christian sources, such as that Jesus spoke as a little baby and gave them, preached to them.
That's from the infancy gospel of Thomas.
Yeah, it's from an infancy gospel. Another story where he has these inanimate birds that he gives life to and breathes life into it and makes them fly, also comes from the infancy gospel, which also is a story that implies that he is God. So it doesn't actually make sense to include that into the Quran. But yeah, all of that is just problematic and just points at plagiarism.
There is because the Quran repeatedly not only quotes these weird late Christian fabrications, it also repeatedly quotes like passages of the Talmud. Yeah. And so like the story of Cain and Abel and the bird and so on, and then even Surah 5 verse 32, if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. That's a quotation from the Talmud. And that's what's ironic about these debates like IP was having and like I was having, where these guys are actually appealing to the Talmud, which on a scale of 1 to 10 is of zero significance for Christians. The only relevance of the Talmud is, hey, Jewish rabbis at a certain time interpreted certain things along those lines. There's nothing authoritative about that for us. But in Islam, since Allah in his Quran repeatedly quotes the Talmud and treats it as if it's the same thing as the Torah, the Talmud has a lot more significance for Muslims than it ever would for Christians.
They also don't understand the Talmud.
They don't know what it is.
Does the same thing. He keeps saying the Talmud says this, so why don't you follow this? Implying that that people who believe in the Talmud or people who respect the Talmud as a scripture are required to follow everything the Talmud says word for word. Which doesn't even make sense because
it's impossible. You'll read these rabbinic commentaries and they'll give you 5 different understandings of a verse. You can't say, oh, I'm bound by all of those. They contradict each other.
Well, I mean, the Talmud is debates. It's disagreements with each other and them having different interpretations of the Torah and Jewish beliefs.
It would be like taking all Muslim commentaries that have ever been written on what the Quran means, and even though tons of these interpretations contradict each other. I mean, you could read a verse and you could take someone like Qurtubi or something like that, and he'll list, here are the 15 different interpretations of this verse. But I mean, imagine taking all the Muslim commentaries that have ever been written with all their contradictory understandings of verses and then treating it as a unit and then saying, oh, that says this about the Quran. Well, yeah, that would say a ton of different things about the Quran because it's a collection of commentaries from human beings. So they treat they're treating the Talmud like it's one thing and like it's authoritative divine revelation, and it's just it's weird stuff, man.
Well, it's also late. It's not like there's scholars debate about, if anything, they say some stuff goes back to the 1st century or prior, but a lot of it comes from centuries after. It's not stuff that comes from the time of Jesus in a lot of ways.
Ivy mentioned before that he was going to do videos in the future about the sociological impacts of Islam. Is he still going to? I would love to see.
I need to do some more research on that. I found some stuff. See, the thing is, you got to remember, when you go into sociology and you study the sociology of religion, like 90% of the sample sizes are Christians. Like, this is because these studies are typically done in the West, and these researchers want to do a study, so they just go ask religious people around them to do. And so they're constantly sampling Christians. There's not been a lot of research done on Muslims, and so it's very kind of hard. I'm collecting things, leaning in that direction, but I'd like to get some more. I mean, I did a video titled "Is Christianity Harmful?" It's 51 minutes, and I go over all the studies, and that's because hundreds of studies have been done. When I get to the video on Islam, I'm not going to have nearly that much because it just hasn't been studied that much. But I mean, I'm finding some positive things, but there's also a lot of very negative things. Surprisingly, Daniel gave me some interesting sources I can use for that, like M. Stephen Fish's book. So, I mean, there's stuff I can use. I just got to keep collecting more.
Yeah, just so you know, but given the research you've already done, should be pretty straightforward to put together videos like on like the impact of polygamy in a society or something like that. These little standalone videos and so on that operate as handy resources for someone who is not familiar with those, but they've just started a discussion with their Muslim friend and they bring up hey, look at what these Dawa guys are saying about second wives and so on. They're going, but that's good for society, and so it's good to actually have something handy. Video for him.
I do want to do a video on polygamy soon. I'm just gonna get it all. It's on the list. It's another video I got to get to.
Warden said, "Why is Muhammad golden showers Haji flexing muscles? Because he's looking for more people who would accept golden showers from him." That's probably IP has no idea what we're talking about.
No idea. One day Muhammad Hijab showed up in the chat and started he had the check mark beside his name, so it's actually him. And he starts just babbling about all this sick golden showers stuff, and
that was right after he challenged me to a debate, and we had this whole thing going on, this drama, and David and I went live and started talking about him on a stream where we were originally supposed to talk about Muhammad the Prophet, and then he came on our stream because he was angry at me and started ranting about golden shower and sex.
Yeah, he was saying sick stuff. And then I was getting messages from people like, I didn't even know what some of this stuff was until I Googled it. And then the pictures popped up and now I have to wash my eyeballs out. But it's like, why is this guy the expert, the world's leading authority on all this sick, perverted stuff on the internet? Weird
That's
stuff.
so funny, man.
Anyway, champions of Dawa.
That is so funny. I want to just give Mike here just a taste of, not of golden shower, but of
you better not. I don't want to see that.
Here's Muhammad Hijab.
These are the messages we're getting.
You two can play with each other. Get on your knees for David Wood, Gimp. David Wood can give you a golden shower. Go ahead and give David Wood what he wants. Let David Wood give you a golden shower. Gimp, get on your knees for your master, boy. You can suck that. Golden showered from your master. I know you need a slave master. Golden shower, Gimp, get on your knees for your master. Let him slap your face, you fiend.
That's you starting to realize who you're getting involved with dealing with these da'is.
I have never felt more civilized in my life.
Oh boy, this never gets old.
Now you're seeing the power of Islam.
I'm gonna pray tonight and feel better. Oh my goodness, I need to pray all that out of my system.
IP has clearly read Thomas Sowell. Awesome.
Oh yeah, Thomas Sowell is one of my favorite political philosophers. Yeah.
Hope you see my super chat appreciation. Hope you see. Hope you see. Oh, hope you see. Yeah. My brain is fried. Now I get the joke. Loki said, thoughts on the halal method of slaughter. Animal remains alive where its throat is cut and forced to bleed out till blood drains. Animal suffers. Yeah, so Muslims are supposed to... My parents, who were very religious, were very much against the modern practices of numbing or putting the animal to sleep, and it was supposed to be done the traditional way. Otherwise, it is not halal, where you hold the animal and then cut the throat and let it bleed out and suffer and die, and only then it's halal and you can eat it and all that. It's interesting stuff. Yeah, but yeah. Nobody cares, just animals.
Well, I mean, modern cultures, it's a lot less cruelty. I watched the video on it. Like they put this like head thing on the cow and it doesn't feel any pain. Like just like some sort of thing goes on the head. Boom.
Yeah.
But Muslims, they have to see the suffering.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of as little suffering as possible.
Agreed.
I would be in favor of as much suffering as possible.
That's what IP wants to slowly torture the cow to death over a period of 2 years.
Yeah.
IP's no, I mean AP's like,
no, you already said IP. Yeah.
AP's like, hey, I could just keep this cow alive and just cut out a steak every once in a while. It's like horrible person.
Oh my god! Wow. Saint John, my miracle worker, said apostate prophet Muslim birth rate is double Christian atheist secular as they are too busy arguing planet overpopulation. Result is that viewpoint will take over Western states eventually. I don't think so.
No.
Okay, so there's a book I could cite. There's a book called "Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth?" and by Eric Kaufman. He's a sociologist, and he basically points out that atheists do have far less children than most people do. It's statistical, just it is.
And
but
they're just way less. They don't have as much sex because they're horribly unattractive.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sociologically speaking, you got to put this into perspective. Poorer countries tend to have more children because children are sort of like an insurance plan. In more developed cultures, you have less children because the way the economies change. Children become more liabilities. They become more expensive. Whereas in poorer countries, you sort of need them to eventually be your retirement plan. So, if you go to, Africa, they have more children than they do in Europe. So that's this kind of thing. So typically what happens is if other countries did get more wealthy, they would just start having less children. So if Muslim countries got wealthier, they would have less children. This is just the way societies work. So the book, Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth, basically says statistically, we're going to be about the same. The Christianity is still going to grow based on birth rates. Same with Islam. It's not like that. For example, my pastor, he's about to have his 12th kid. Okay, and like a lot of the people at the church I attend, they have a lot of kids. It's the Catholic Church still, for example, is one of the organizations out there that outlaws contraception. So when I went to a Catholic conference in January, there was children everywhere because they have so many children. It's just everywhere. Like in the church I attend, children everywhere as well. So a lot of the denominations like Catholic, I don't think Anglican does, but I know Lutheran strongly condemns or strongly says shies away from contraception. I don't think they outright condemn it like Catholics do, but a lot of these more traditional churches, they're still having a lot of children. So yeah, there are less children now having in the West, but this has a lot to do more with prosperity than it has to do with religion. If the Islamic states became wealthier, you would see less children as well. But you also have to take into account a lot of these countries like throughout Northern Africa and in the Middle East. There's also higher death rates of people in those countries. They have higher people immigrating out of those countries and they go to the West. And when they do, graphically speaking, a lot of them just become atheists when they move to Europe, or they become Christian in some ways. Lately, the trend has been, in the past decade, has been more atheists. As immigrants move into Europe, they tend to become more atheist. Those are the general trends. But Kaufman's book kind of points out that trend is not sustainable. We will see a return to more religious societies in the future, Christian and Muslim in the long run. So there's a lot more factors going into these kinds of things we need to think about.
Bye-bye, atheists. You're about to be outnumbered. Yes,
you're going to die.
Yes, so the general thing to keep in mind, because you even had a Pew Research study that Muslims like to cite about Islam being the fastest growing religion in the world and so on. They even say in that report that it was based on birth rates. So in order to say Islam has the highest birth rates and therefore Islam will take over the world, you have to assume that there's nothing that's going to offset that or ever change. And some of the things that change is as as societies, countries modernize and so on, birth rates tend to drop. So that will affect it. And also you're dealing with this geometric growth of the avalanche of apostasy, where a few years ago it was 24% of Muslim youth leaving Islam, but that's been accelerating. So I mean, how are birth rates going to help you when you get to an apostasy rate of 50% or 60% or 70%?
It's going to be a tsunami, an avalanche.
And so all those people, some of those people might convert to atheism, but they'll just die out eventually. And so Christians, we win.
Yeah, atheists usually die. So that's the thing. WLZ said, saw a study about depression in the Middle East. Women have double the depression rates as men, and many countries have higher depression rates than West. I never saw that. I just looked it up, and I'm actually seeing the studies now. There are multiple studies which show that that women in the Middle East have surprisingly high depression rates.
Well, that's because they're weak. You see, they've been brainwashed by the West into being depressed if they just do what the Quran says.
I'd like to see those studies if you can send them to me. But that lines with Stephen Fish's work, where he points out that in the Middle East, there's higher rates of gender inequality. So women have lower life expectancies, lower education, lower literacy rates, I think he mentioned. And so that would align with that as well. I mean, and we know that education correlates with lower depression. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. The rate of depression may not be necessarily unique. Depression. Anyway, I'll look at that stuff. It's interesting. Karen Fisher said, "Do you think this is a fulfillment of Isaiah 4:1?" I don't think so.
Yeah.
Why?
IP.
Why?
What is Isaiah 4:1?
In that day, 7 women will take hold of one man and say, "We will eat our own food and provide our own clothes, and only let us be called by your name. Take away our disgrace," is what it says.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very skeptical of reading these things. I mean, a lot of what they're doing in the Old Testament is not so much prophecy for future. It's a lot of this stuff is conditional. A lot of this stuff is more warning than prophecy. Check out a video I did back in March on the conditional nature of prophecy. in the Bible.
It sounds really exciting.
It is very exciting, David. Its title was Jesus, a Failed Apocalyptic Prophet. So there, it's like that. But I don't know. I'm very skeptical of reading that.
Wait, you hear him? He said prophet. You see, he's agreeing with Islam. That's what they do with Ehrman when he says that Jesus was an apocalyptic prophet. They say, you said prophet, right? Not realize it, like apocalyptic prophets, like the end is near. The end is near.
That's because they don't know what the word prophet actually means. They just use it as a thing for their prophets.
Yeah. So going with what Bart Ehrman thinks about Jesus does not give you an Islamic prophet, but they think that's what he's saying. Weird stuff.
Yeah, and looking at this context, I don't know, because you read right after that, in that day the branch of the Lord shall be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the land shall be the pride and the honor of the survivors of Israel, and he who is left in Zion and remains in Jerusalem will be called holy, everyone who has been recorded for life in Jerusalem. That's verse 2 and 3. I mean, so 7 women will take hold of a man and say, we will eat our own bread and wear our own clothes. He seems to be saying this is a good thing. I mean, if you read the next 2 verses, like, this is supposed to be a good thing for the women. They can just provide their own food and clothes. So maybe it's like, yeah, this is about times of equality. I don't know. I would need to read some commentaries on this before.
How dare you say something good about women?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do where do you guys stand in the global overpopulation versus global underpopulation future? There are many smart people on either side of the bill. I would like to leave it to the experts.
I have looked a little bit into that. I think the population is supposed to peak at some point in the next 100 years and then start to slowly decline. I mean, China is already supposed to have a declining population sometime after 2030 and before 2040, I believe. So, I know this because I was listening to some military experts about attacking Taiwan. They got like 7 years before they start having a declining economy. So, yeah, population, I think, will decline. This is because of modernization. But, I mean, I think at the same time, people are also worried there's not going to be enough jobs in the future because of automation. And I think the people that are worried about overpopulation should talk to the people who are worried about the rise of automation, because maybe those problems will cancel each other out. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. You could see it both ways. You could say, hey, we have there is a limit. There's a finite amount of resources in the world. So obviously the more people you have competing for those resources, the more of a difficulty you're eventually going to have. The response is we're nowhere near running out of resources, and the technology would actually increase to keep up with it. And people are actually getting better. Like poverty rates have been going down as population has been growing. And the claim is basically people are the argument for underpopulation being the problem is, you've got old people, and we're able to take care of old people who retire and so on, because you have enough young people entering the workforce to be ultimately taking care of these people, or providing through taxes or whatever, taking care of the older people. If you do not have enough younger people entering the workforce, then you eventually end up with a population that's heavy, that leans towards being too old and not enough young people coming on. And the claim is that you actually start getting like collapse of civilization in that situation. But yeah, I would not make a claim one way or another without studying it more.
Yeah. The experts have spoken. And now let's move on to the next topic. Channel for you said, I see Muhammad and Ali Dawa. Who is the third one? Oh, that was some random guy. I have no idea who that guy was.
There were 2 other guys there.
There were 2 other guys, yeah, some random guys.
4 men, 4 women.
Nobody cares. They're not real men because
it's true equality. 4 men, 4 women.
Yeah. Muslims have experienced a fertility decrease from 4.4 to 2.3. Islamic countries already have below replacement levels. A good book on this topic is Religion's Sudden Decline by Ronald F. Englert. The thing is, there was a study that I barely remember this. It was many years ago, which showed that that even within the same culture, even within the same neighborhood, and same circumstances, a Muslim family tends to have a higher number of children than a non-Muslim, a Christian, or
That was in that Pew Research study. They said even if you go to specific regions where you have Christians and atheists and everyone, it's like region by region, Muslims always have the highest birth rates. But the birth rates have still been declining, even among Muslims.
That's true. That's true.
And this whole idea is based on we need a certain high number of birth rate for a replacement population is based on older technology. That again, with the rise of automation coming out and AI, there's not going to be as many jobs available, and that is going to be a replacement. So I think, honestly, in capitalistic societies, these are just built-in factors that sort of just take care of themselves. As you modernize, there's less a need for children because technology is replacing it. I don't.
It's very funny. Daniel Haqiqatjou is very obsessed with the whole population extinction numbers required to replace the population and so on. And he even discussed that with me way back when I first had my first conversation with him. And I asked him why in the world he's even worried about this, because I mean he should not be worried about extinction and all of that. He should be worried that people believe in Islam and become Muslims and all of that. And he then brought up some weird objection to me, which is like, would you rather want a future that is like fully technocratic and where humans are ruled by some extremely problematic oppressive system where nothing is in charge anymore, nothing good, nothing human is in charge anymore, rather than us taking control and implementing proper standards? And I thought, I don't know. I would rather have AI rule over me.
That's always his argument. It's, hey, I don't want this dystopia. And he's like, but you could have this other dystopia. Which of these two dystopias, the only possibilities, do you prefer? It's one or the other.
Always false dichotomy. Always, you don't support this, then look what happens. Then you will have this system where people will suffer terribly and will die in the streets from addictions.
You don't want a world where men can beat their wives into submission, then you must be favoring the state coming in there and beating your wife into submission. You don't want that, but it's one or the other. It's one or the other, guys.
Exactly. This whole idea of the technology being necessarily bad or it's going to lead to a dystopia is obviously fear-mongering. But to give a good example, think of when they came out with nuclear warheads. Okay, it was the end of the world. We're going to annihilate each other. Well, what ended up happening is that everyone had nuclear weapons and everyone was afraid to set them off. So instead of always going to war, countries started working more on negotiating, talking with one another, just to avoid nuclear war. So what was supposed to destroy us has actually led to more peace. It's one of those great ironies of history. These massive superpowers having nuclear wars has caused more diplomacy because we don't want to set off the nuclear warheads. This idea of technology is going to create this horrible dystopian state is not necessarily true.
And that is a weird pop culture idea, by the way, that humans would somehow destroy themselves and go extinct by their own hands. That is there is no scientific agreement that argues that humans would somehow be capable of making themselves extinct through a nuclear war or anything like that. Humans would always exist as a result after those things in one way or another.
I'm still waiting for the Trump 2024 sign to come up behind IP.
Why?
You see, he made the brilliant case. The liberals want to take away our weapons, but as IP just pointed out brilliantly, I mean, he probably got this from me, that we all need weapons because that's what keeps us from killing ourselves.
I asked ChatGPT earlier, by the way, because I saw somebody ask ChatGPT to write the book of Genesis in the style of Trump. I went on there and asked it to write several Quran verses and chapters in the style of Trump. At first, it refused, so I had to kind of find my way around it and kind of convinced it and use the new ChatGPT 4, and then it eventually came around and started writing in Trump style. And I was like,
just so everyone knows, this is what AP now does instead of making videos.
This is what I do in my free time here. Actually, I should bring something up here so that David Wood can read it in his wonderful Trump voice here. Let's have this on here. Which one do you want? Write chapter 4, verse 34 in Trump style. What else did I say? Writes for a Taliban in the style of Trump. Writes Surah
I can't believe
Baqarah.
this is a thing.
Oh, here. Writes Surah Baqarah in the style of Trump. Here, read this, David.
This is the book, folks, and it's the best book, the most tremendous book, in which there's absolutely no doubt at all. It's a guide for those who are conscious of Allah, who believe in the unseen, who perform the best prayers, nothing but the best prayers for us, and who spend from what we have provided for them. These are the best. These are the best people, the winners, the winners.
Yeah, it just keeps doing these things. It refers to Allah as the big guy.
The most fantastic path. The most fantastic path.
This is declaration of immunity, the best immunity from Allah.
the best immunity.
You made some deals, but let me tell you, not all of them were great deals. It's it's amazing stuff.
Frankly,
yeah,
they're not the best deals.
Wait, you got to. Oh, that's.
I told it to write 9 verse 29, which is one of my favorite ones. Folks, let me tell you, you need to fight against those who don't believe in Allah. This wasn't that great. But
they're not on our team. Not the best people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, read that. What was that? Just here, 929.
They're not on our team. Yeah, that's the end of the first section there. They're not on our team, not the best people. You've got to fight against those who don't practice the true religion, the best religion, until they pay the jizya willingly, feel themselves subdued. We want everyone to be on the winning side. And sometimes you got to show them who's boss.
This is amazing, man. It's amazing stuff. Hey, there's much more here, but I will keep experimenting with this and doing these very important things in my free time. Yeshua the King said IP made a good point when he brought up war booty to Daniel. I wish he would have pressed that more. That was
I ran out of time. I ran out at 5 minutes.
And he also complained that this is not related to the topic, but I will answer it anyway. He said, right?
Yeah, it is related to the topic because we're talking about child marriage and using minors for sex, and he already agreed that yes, you can have sex with a girl 3, 4, 5. So what? And he tried to make the moral justification for sexual slavery. So what would stop a Muslim man from taking a girl who has very, very little pubic hair and saying, okay, now I can start having sex with you at like 5, 6, 7. I mean, what's going to stop that? If you're allowed in Islam, according to Daniel, after a war to take all the women back and use them as sex slaves, what's going to stop them from doing it with the girls as well that have barely started puberty? It's disgusting to think about, but that's something, and he seemed to be saying, yeah, of course you could do that. And I was blown away that he just outright said it. But I mean, yeah, as AP was saying, he's doing a great job of making Islam look bad.
Yeah, but here's the issue, IP. So you are against child marriage because you think it's bad. Do you also think adultery is bad?
Yes.
So why do you not want to ban adultery? Why do you not want to ban fornication? Why do you not want to ban masturbation?
Let's make it illegal. Anyone who masturbates goes to prison. Like
this was his objection, man. He wants to throw.
What would you prefer? Because there are only two possibilities here. A future dystopia where everyone marries 2, and 3, and 4-year-olds, or a world where 2, and 3, and 4-year-olds are all running to the closet masturbating. Which one? It has to be one or the other. Those are the only two possibilities.
Oh, it's so insane, man. What reason?
Oh man, that's why at the end of the debate I pressed him on that. He's like, "How will you punish these people?" He didn't have a solution. He didn't know. He was like, "Send them to juvie." Okay, so we're gonna fill juvie up with thousands of children who may have fooled around in their ignorance. Like,
what a suggestion! This is my great solution. I want to throw all those teenagers, all those kids in prison. Wow, man, amazing stuff. Didn't Moses have 2 wives?
Okay, yeah, I want to address this. Yeah, so yes, he did. So did Abraham. Also had multiple wives. So did Jacob. Here's the thing: when you read biblical scholars who are writing about this, they always write polygamy in a negative light. So with Abraham, and he takes in Hagar, it causes strife between wives. With Jacob, it causes strife between sons. With Moses, it causes his relatives to come after him, and it causes strife again. It's really weird that every time they write about polygamy in the Pentateuch, they're always painting it in a negative light. Nothing good ever comes out of it. It always causes strife between the offspring or between the wives.
Also,
it causes
also later with the families of David, and then Solomon.
Yeah.
Solomon eventually turns away from God because he starts worshiping the gods of all his different wives and so on.
It's because women are terrible.
Yeah, they're evil.
Yeah.
And you gotta there's a verse in Leviticus. It's Leviticus 18:18. It says you cannot take a wife and her sister. And scholars have noted that in the Hebrew, it may be an idiom. It's like you cannot take a wife and another. You compare that with some verses in Malachi as well as Genesis 2. It seems that the authors, a lot of the biblical authors, were vehemently against polygamy. They always narrated it in a negative way. And they have verses like Leviticus 18:18 where they're saying you can't have a second wife. So, and then you get Jesus in the New Testament who's like, no, you can male and female. That's it. Paul builds on that again. One wife, male and female. So yeah, the Bible is very anti-polygamy if you read it in context.
And there's this additional issue of, you have Jesus saying Moses allowed that because of the hardness of your hearts. The impression you get is these guys are not ideal patterns of conduct. Yeah. In the Bible, I mean, prophets are very frequently messed up misfits that God uses in spite of how screwed up they are. And then the Muslims who have an idea of prophets as these people that God is protecting from any sort of major error or something like that, they think, oh, if you're saying a prophet did it, you're thinking that's good as gold, and not reading it like we do. Like, no, these prophets were all screw ups, right? And insofar as they are doing something bad, they are not to be imitated.
Yeah, Muslims think that is an insult and a corruption, and prophets cannot have done bad things, cannot have done things that your religion or your morals would not agree with. That is completely foreign to them. To them, prophets are completely exempt from such things. They are not humans.
They try to justify so much behavior that we can just say, okay, they were wrong, and then you look at Noah, for example. Noah gets drunk and curses his grandson. I mean, like, how do they justify that? I mean, he's clearly drunk.
Yeah. Anyway, pedophilia is not about self-control. It is a mental illness. A Muslim woman is prescribed to abide by that. The normal women should call the cops or wait list. I would make a distinction here just because I want to be very particular when we talk about pedophilia. It is considered in psychology, it is considered that some people have a mental illness which makes them feel uncontrollably attracted to minors or to children even. But there is, as far as I am aware, correct me if you have a different opinion on this, you have studied this issue a lot recently because you had to argue with a pedophile apologist, IP. But it is not certain that all people who have a pedophilia issue suffer from an uncontrollable mental illness which makes them attracted to that. But this is just one major aspect of certain people who deal with such a mental disorder.
I think pedophilia is described as that way. So it depends on how you define mental illness. So if a mental illness is something that causes harm to you, so like schizophrenia, you're going to cause harm. It's going to cause a lot of issues, multiple personality disorder or DID, these kinds of things. So now some say that other things like pedophilia are mental disorder because they cause you to cause harm to others, or you gravitate towards activity that would that doesn't make sense in terms of human nature. Like you can't, we have sex with men and women to have children, but then there's pushback on that when it comes to things like homosexuality. So there is a debate on if it should be classified as a mental disorder. However, all the researchers agree it should not be practiced because it causes active harm to the passive partner, the child involved. So like it could be a harmfully mixed-matched neurological trait. It may not be a mental disorder. It depends on which researcher you're reading, but all researchers agree that this is just harmful to the younger partner. This should be abolished because of that.
The DSM-5. So that's the standard work on diagnosing mental health disorders. If you just read the criteria of what's called pedophilic disorder, Muhammad meets those requirements. Like they'll say, the one partner has to be at least 5 years older than the other. In other words, it's not a 9-year-old boy who's attracted to a 9-year-old girl. You don't say, oh, he's attracted to a 9-year-old, therefore he's a pedophile. They're comparable age. So the guy has to be significantly older. They'll say things like, she has to be, young enough to where, like he's attracted to someone who's prepubescent. And after all the criteria are met, which Muhammad meets all the criteria, there are the qualifiers where you can fall into a category. Like some people are incestuous, right? So there's like incestuous pedophilic disorder. That's where people are actually attracted to their relatives who are young. But then there's the qualifier of, is it exclusive or non-exclusive?
Yeah, that's very important.
Are you just attracted to kids, or are you attracted to kids and women? And so following that, those criteria, Muhammad would be labeled with non-exclusive pedophilic disorder. But
that's a very important point. Muslims often say his other wives were not that young. He also married older women. Well, that doesn't really matter. There is no such thing as that pedophiles are exclusively interested in children. There are specific distinctions within pedophilia.
The only additional factor where you could make an argument, a relevant point against that, is there are exceptions. If something is completely normal in your society, then it may not be caused by a mental disorder. In other words, if behaviors that are caused by a mental disorder in the DSM-5, you could have a society where that behavior is totally normal and adaptive in that society. And therefore they would say, oh, okay, well, if you're raised to think that that's normal behavior, notice you could have, in theory, you could have a society where everyone acts like they're schizophrenic, even if they're not, right? Where that behavior is considered normal, and people might be going around acting like they have a problem. So someone could argue that if it was normal, I don't think we have really great case to think that marrying 9-year-olds was normal back then. But suppose if you showed that and showed everyone that was completely normal at that time, then in theory, you could say, well, therefore, it shouldn't be labeled as a mental health disorder because it was normal and adaptive at that time. You'd still have the problem of, the Quran is putting its stamp of approval on Muhammad's behavior. But anyway, that's where the debate is.
There's a thing that I learned in my abnormal psychology courses, which is a useful combination of criteria to determine whether something is a mental disorder or not, and that's it's called the 4 Ds, which is dysfunction, danger, deviance, and I forgot what it is, but something else. I don't know. Distress, and so based on those different standards, you can determine if a person is, for example, suffering from a disorder or not, and whether that disorder should be treated as such and diagnosed as a result or not.
Even in the DSM-5, it'll give, like when it's giving a criterion, it will say either this problem is causing you distress, so your desire for little kids is causing you distress, or you're acting on it, right? Because someone could act on it and not be distressed at all. Or you could not act on it. You actually use your self-control, but it's really messing you up because you really want this and so on. So,
but one of those things is actually important. One of those things is deviance, and as David just brought up, something can be considered normal within a society, and then somebody who practices it might not be considered, mentally ill for doing a certain thing because it is common in the society. But if it's not common and somebody does something extremely unusual that also fits all the other criteria, that could be seen as a deviant, distressful, dangerous action, and so on. Yeah. Man, this stream has been going on for 3 hours, and we still have like thousands of super chats left.
Yeah, we're having this thing. We're talking about marriages, and AP's trying to ruin all our marriages by having us on all night.
Oh yeah. I got to get going soon for sure.
The man said, not to be rude, but I think you missed one of my super chats. I asked because I wanted to figure out if the LDS church counts as Christian. Any source on that, by the way?
They do not. The LDS does not count as Christian because they deny the Nicene Creed and essential Christian doctrines. They in a lot of ways, traditional Mormon theology is closer to like traditional paganism than it is to Christian doctrine, because God is El, who was a human on another planet who had appointed to godhood and then got this planet. He didn't create the universe. And so then Jesus is just like his first spirit baby. It's this weird setup, and it's like it's just so far from Orthodox Christianity.
And you could also get your own planet if you're good enough. You could maybe get your own planets and create your own beings and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's just it cannot be counted as Christian, like Jehovah's Witnesses. They have violated. They reject too many essential Christian doctrines, and so no, they cannot.
Yeah, so guys, the general assessment usually, because you don't want to be too quick to say, oh, I disagree with this other Christian, therefore this Christian's heretical or something like that. But it's usually once you get down to the core basic doctrines, Jesus, death for sins, his resurrection, his divine nature, and so on. You get to these once a group starts messing around with just basic doctrines that the Bible lists as requirements for correct belief and so on, then you start looking, not looking Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. ChatGPT says hellfire will roast and toast them. That comes from a meme.
They'll be roasted and toasted.
House of Hikmah said, so first you're late and David doesn't hum in the intro. What is this? Amateur hour. By the way, I'm naming my future streams The Uncomfortable Huck. That's good.
The Uncomfortable Hawk is actually good.
Yeah. I think it should be normal for women to have multiple husbands who submit to Yeah, definitely. Muslim women believe in everything else in Islam, but push back on this and sex slavery. They just don't want to believe it, especially the women in my family. Yeah, people have been corrupted by the evil West and have abandoned Islamic values, unfortunately. That's why, people are now getting seduced by very, very terrible, very dangerous things like not sharing your husband and stuff like that. It's terrible. I did not have sex with that woman.
That's Bill Clinton imitating Bill Clinton imitating Muhammad. Muhammad getting caught with his sex slave.
Oh yes, that's good. As I'm always using this show to search for a new wife. It's like he's testing the waters with these women.
Yeah, he's just having all these women on to find out who. No, I'm totally cool with that. Oh, okay. Come talk to me after the show.
Robert Herrick said, just sending love and support. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's to me, not to you guys. The NATO said, David, can you give some hadith? Lies is allowed.
He must have said that before because we quoted the one from Termity where he said lying is accepted if it's to make your wife happy.
Yeah. I thought Islam is supposed to cure degeneracy.
Yeah, sure is.
Degeneracy.
That's why.
Hassan Korney made a super chat and didn't say anything. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Apologetics Dream Team. I don't think you know what I'm doing here. I'm not.
He's undercover.
Creator UT Intelligence said, should we be congratulating IP on his debate with Daniel? Peace be upon him. Should we praise someone for defending kids when these things are so obvious? LOL. Yes, we should.
Yes.
IP is a hero.
Congratulations, IP.
Well, I mean, remember, he challenged me. He wanted to argue for it. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, what are you saying? What are you saying, Credo? That he should have backed down and said, no, I won't debate that? I will not defend children? What kind of man would not defend children?
He is obviously, if you see the usual way that Daniel Haqiqatjou tweets about things or talks about things after an interaction with somebody, he's like very confident and mocking and all that. After his debate with you, he has gone into a full desperate, angry meltdown mode, and he's very desperate right now and trying to make all kinds of excuses and adding even more stupid arguments to his debate. It's very pathetic, and it's amazing to see. To be honest.
I think I looked a lot watching his tweets in comparison to his prior debates. I think he might know he didn't do that well, and it shows.
And it's very stupid that he actually, I mean, he should know who you are and the things that you believe in and how you argue. And he's the one who challenged you, and then he did a horrible job, so much that Muslim apologists themselves came out and started trying to fix the narrative. And I don't know, man.
Hey, you know what's interesting here? Like, I've realized that this is all connected, but I've realized that I don't I don't dislike Daniel as much as a lot of other people, and I was trying to figure out why, right? Because, like, I mean, compared to
because he's a psychopath, and you are too.
Well, no, I tried to figure it out, and I finally figured out why I don't like. He doesn't annoy me as much as like an Ali Dawa or something like that. I was trying to why is it? I mean, he's putting forth views that are sometimes even worse than Ali Dawa's. So what's going on here? And I finally realized it's if you're going to be putting out these insane ideas and saying these horrible things, at least have some thick skin to not freak out when people criticize you. And if you look at like Hijab and Ali Dawa and Sheikh Uthman and all these guys, they're all like saying these horrible things. But as soon as anyone criticizes them, especially their fellow Muslims, they lose their minds. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're causing division in the ummah by attacking me. They'll whine like babies. Whereas Daniel seems to be like, okay, I'm putting out all these horrible ideas that are, I mean, horrible to most people. But he doesn't go into like crybaby mode as soon as anyone starts disagreeing with him. So it's like that kind of thicker skin. But that's actually the problem here, right? Because if you look at it, Daniel's entire approach, it's, okay, I'll put out this horrible idea. And then when people complain about it, I'll say, but Christians have the same idea, even though we don't. But I'll lie about, we'll make up something about Isaac and Rebecca or whoever. We'll make something up and we'll say, you've got the same problem. Not realizing, guys, who's better at dealing with criticism, Christians or Muslims, right? Who loses their minds when someone like Muhammad is criticized? Muslims lose their minds and riot through the street. Not all Muslims, just to be clear, but they seem to be very, very bad at dealing with criticism. So notice here, Daniel has a bit thicker skin. He can say a bunch of horrible stuff and he can deal with the blowback, not realizing his community can't deal with the blowback, right? So he's thinking, hey, I'll defend pedophilia. And if you say pedophilia is wrong, I'll say, well, you guys support pedophilia too. You just don't know it. Ha ha. And all his followers, ha ha, they all support pedophilia because Rebecca was 3. No, she wasn't. But we can say it. Okay, so you guys are going to be shouting at Christians who are pretty good at dealing with criticism. And Christians, atheists, Hindus, everyone is going to be shouting back that your prophet's a pedophile. And you as a community do not deal with criticism well. Who wins that entire scenario? And he doesn't and he's starting to catch on. This is like bad. This is not, something's wrong here. He doesn't realize what it is because he's actually fairly decent at accepting criticism. But yeah, it's just bad for the whole shebang. And he doesn't quite realize what's going on.
Yep. The one gamer said he really makes my Xbox chat look like a Bible passage. Holy crap! He's talking about Muhammad.
He was talking about Muhammad Hijab's chat.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Mama was possessed or schizophrenic? One answer. One word answer.
That is, we are not limited to either or in that situation. We can say both. I could say he had mental health problems and he was possessed. AP wouldn't say that he's possessed because he's a dumb atheist who doesn't believe in demons. But
I don't believe in fairy tales, so I would say that he was probably. So I would probably say he was mentally ill.
You see,
Zay XNT said, "I have a feeling that AP is a secret Christian."
You see.
Secret? What are you talking about? That one gamer said might be a little bit because Tim is booked for the next 2 months, I believe, but I'll definitely keep trying. Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. You think Jewish fairy tale stories that made their way into the Quran would be a pretty big red flag there? God bless you all. Those are not really
Christian and Jewish fairy tale stories, right? No one denies that Christians and later Christians and Jews made up all kinds of weird stories. Just the problem is for Muslims, they ended up in the Quran.
Yeah. Some introverts said, "Why are so many Latinos converting to Islam lately?" There was a news out there that Latinos have a higher conversion rate than others, but I don't think there is a significant development going on.
And by the way, there is a reason. If you've noticed, the Dawa is always looking for people who haven't caught on to their arguments. So for a while,
are you saying Latinos are ignorant?
As far as the material here is, you have to look at who started responding to it. So for a while, pretty much everyone in the United States, everyone in Europe was completely ignorant of Islam, and then Muslim preachers were able to go in there and say pretty much whatever they wanted about Islam, and people would convert. Eventually, people started looking up looking up the sources and so on, which were available in English, more difficult to find in Spanish, but their major sources have been around for a while in English, and that allowed people to expose the lies. But if you look at what the Dais are doing, they're constantly looking for what group can we find that hasn't become completely familiar with what our arguments are and what the problems with our arguments are, and they start focusing on those groups. Notice they don't want to focus on people who are familiar with who can expose their lies. As soon as they find out, hey, when we say Islam promotes this and you can refute it, it's not, hey, let's show you you're wrong. It's okay, let's put them aside and go find a different group who aren't familiar with these arguments we're using. And so that's gonna keep happening, like group by group around the world. They're gonna keep going to new groups until those groups all learn the problems with what they're being told.
Yeah, this guy posted a bunch of the moon and stars, which just made me convinced that Islam is true. I will not.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So this is what David Wood does. He says we have to go. You are keeping us here forever, and then he gives a whole lecture, like a whole preaching about everything.
He's still going.
Okay, we're done. I'm reading this and then we're done. Some ideas like Daniel's are so absurd that no one should give it the intellectual courtesy, unlike dealing with others' ideas, which is why I appreciate IP's no BS debate approach. Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye. Just kidding. We will be here again. I think tomorrow we will be live on David Wood's channel. And next week we will be here again. And from now on, IP should be joining us as a third guy whom we will keep here forever so that he will have no time in the evenings again. Yeah. And with all of that said, is there anything else, one-word things that you want to add before we leave?
Stay away from
Islam. Stay away from it.
I was going to say stay away from child brides and anyone who stay away from anyone who's advocating marrying child brides
and polygamy.
Mormons, so or fundamentalist Mormons. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not the modern one, not the reformed new
AP once again always attacking Turkish people and Mormons.
You are not like a Turkish Mormon.
No.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic, wonderful day. And as always, I would like to leave you alone with a beautiful message coming from our dear friend, Sajid Lipin.
Stay away from Islam.